He signed the papers with a steady hand, believing he was saving her life. What Roman Varick didn't know was that his wife was carrying his child, and the moment his pen left that page, she vanished into the night with a secret that would break him 5 years later. When the bullets finally come for a little girl with her father's gray eyes, the deadliest man in Blackwater City will learn that some sacrifices don't protect the ones you love. They just delay the war. If you're watching from anywhere in the world right now, drop your city in the comments. I want to see how far this story travels. Smash that like button. Stay until the very end, because what happens in the final 10 minutes will gut you. Let's begin. The pen weighed more than the gun on his hip. Roman Varick sat at the long walnut desk in his study on the 32nd floor of the Varick Tower, staring at a stack of papers that had taken his lawyer 3 weeks to draft and him exactly 47 seconds to destroy his marriage with. Outside the floor-to-ceiling windows, Blackwater City bled neon into a wet November sky. Rain streaked down the glass in long, crooked lines, the kind of rain that didn't cleanse anything, just smeared the dirt around. He hadn't turned on the lights. He didn't need to. He knew the room the way a soldier knows his rifle, by feel, by muscle memory, by the cold certainty of where every sharp edge lived. "Sign it, Roman." The voice came from across the desk. Viktor Kozlov stood with his hands behind his back, his charcoal suit crisp, his face carved from something harder than bone. Viktor had been Roman's second since they were 17 years old and stealing radios out of cars behind the old train yards. 21 years later, Viktor was the only man on earth Roman trusted to tell him the truth. That's why he was here. That's why Roman hadn't thrown him out 10 minutes ago. "She's not going to sign," Roman said quietly. "She will. You don't know her." "I know her enough." Viktor took a slow breath through his nose. "She loves you too much not to sign. That's the cruel part, boss. That's why it's going to work." Roman's hand trembled. Actually trembled. He stared at his own fingers like they belonged to a stranger. 38 years old, and he'd pulled a trigger on men twice his size without so much as a flutter. And now a 4-ounce pen was going to unmake him. He pressed the nib to the paper. He thought about Elena laughing in the kitchen 2 summers ago, flour on her cheek, music playing from a speaker he'd bought her because she said the house felt too quiet. He thought about the way she curled into him at night, her hand flat against his chest like she was listening for something only she could hear. He thought about the last time they made love, 3 weeks ago, her whispering his name in the dark like a prayer she wasn't sure would be answered. Then he thought about Anton Grebov's son, 9 years old, a bullet through his neck in the back of an armored Mercedes because his father had crossed the wrong people. They'd found the boy still buckled into his booster seat. Roman signed. The scratch of the pen was louder than the rain. He signed the second page. The third. His name, over and over, in the same even hand he'd used to sign death warrants, weapons shipments, offshore transfers. Roman Varick. Roman Varick. Roman Varick. Each signature cost him something he'd never get back. When he finished, he closed the folder and slid it across the desk. "Take it to her," he said. "Tonight, before I can change my mind." Viktor didn't move. "Boss." "Tonight, Viktor." "She'll ask why. Tell her whatever you have to tell her. Tell her I'm a bastard. Tell her I've been unfaithful. Tell her I never loved her." Roman's voice didn't crack. He'd practiced this in his head for a month. "Tell her anything that makes her hate me enough to leave and not come back." Viktor picked up the folder like it was something radioactive. His jaw worked. Then, for the first time in all the years Roman had known him, Viktor hesitated. "Roman, you're going to regret this. Not tomorrow, not next year, but one day you're going to wake up and I'll regret it alive," Roman snapped. "She gets to be alive too. That's the trade." Viktor looked at him for a long moment. Then he nodded once, a sharp, economical gesture, and walked out of the study. The door clicked shut. The elevator pinged somewhere down the hall, and Roman Varick, the most feared man in Blackwater City, put his face in his hands and sat in the dark for a very long time. Across town, in a Victorian brownstone that Roman had bought her for their first anniversary, Elena Cross was throwing up in the downstairs bathroom. She didn't make it to the toilet the first time. She hit her knees on the cold tile, one hand flat against the wall, the other pressed to her mouth, and let her body do what it had been doing every morning for 16 days straight now. Coffee, toast, bile. Her hair stuck to her forehead. She hadn't told anyone. She hadn't told him. When she finally sat back against the tub, knees drawn up, her silk robe twisted around her like seaweed, she pressed both hands to her stomach and breathed through her mouth until the nausea passed. The house was quiet. Roman hadn't come home in 4 nights. There was a time, not so long ago, when that would have made her frantic. She would have paced, called, texted. Now she just sat on the bathroom floor and waited for her body to stop shaking. The test was still in the drawer. 3 tests, actually. All 3 of them looking back at her with the same blunt little plus sign, like an answer to a question she hadn't meant to ask yet. Elena Cross was 31 years old. She had an MBA she'd never used, a husband whose business she pretended not to understand, and a secret growing inside her that was roughly the size of a lime. And she had known, for about 2 weeks now, that she couldn't stay. She'd known it the night Roman came home with blood on his collar that wasn't his. She'd known it when he kissed her forehead in the kitchen and she smelled gunpowder on his skin. She'd known it when she woke up at 3 in the morning and found him sitting on the edge of the bed in the dark, loading a pistol with the methodical patience of a man doing something he'd done 1,000 times. She loved him. That wasn't the problem. Loving Roman Varric had never been the problem. The problem was that she was about to bring a human being into a world where her husband's name made grown men whisper, and she had finally admitted to herself that the cost of that love had a ceiling, and she'd hit it. The doorbell rang. Elena froze. It was almost 11 at night. Roman would have used his key. The staff was gone. She listened, and the bell rang again, 2 short, polite pulses. She pulled her robe tighter and padded through the hall in bare feet. When she checked the security monitor by the front door, her stomach dropped for a different reason. Victor. He was standing on her porch in the rain, no umbrella, a manila folder tucked under one arm. His head was slightly bowed. He looked from this angle like a man at a funeral. She opened the door. "Elena." "Where is he?" she said. Her voice came out smaller than she meant it to. "Victor. Where's Roman? Is he—" "He's fine." Victor stepped inside without being invited, which he had never done before in his life. Water pooled around his shoes on the hardwood. He wouldn't quite meet her eyes. "He's alive. He's at the tower." "Then what—" "He sent me to give you something." He held out the folder. Elena looked at it, looked at Victor's face, looked at the folder again. A cold, slow thing crawled up her spine, vertebra by vertebra. "What is it?" "Open it." "Victor, what—" "Open it, Elena. Please." She took the folder. Her hands were steady, which surprised her. She walked into the front sitting room, the one with the piano she never played and the fireplace Roman always lit when he came home. And she sat down on the edge of the leather couch and opened it. The top page had the state seal. The word dissolution. Her name. His name. His signature 3 times in that clean, aggressive slant she'd seen on 1,000 birthday cards and post-it notes and love letters tucked into her coffee cup in the morning. She didn't cry. Not yet. "He's divorcing me." "Yes." "Why?" Victor stood on the other side of the room. He clasped his hands in front of him, and for a moment Elena could see the 17-year-old boy Roman had told her about, the one who'd slept in abandoned buildings with her husband before either of them knew what power tasted like. "He wants me to tell you he's been seeing someone else." Victor's voice was flat. "He wants me to tell you he never loved you, that you were a distraction, that he married you because you were beautiful and easy." Elena's breath left her body in one ragged push. "He wants me to tell you he—" "Stop." "Elena." "Stop, Victor." The room was very quiet. Somewhere upstairs the grandfather clock ticked. Rain tapped the windows. Elena stood up slowly. She walked to Victor and she looked up into his face and she said very calmly, "Tell me the truth, right now. Tell me the actual truth, or I swear to everything I have left, I will walk into that tower tonight and I will ask him myself, and if you lie to me, I will know." Victor closed his eyes. "He thinks you're going to die if you stay married to him," he said. "There's a war coming, a bad one. Dragov out of the Eastern Bloc. He's moving pieces. Roman thinks if you're his wife, you're a target. He thinks if he divorces you and you disappear, you'll be safe. So he's sending me away?" "Yes." "Without asking me?" "Yes." "Without talking to me?" Elena, if he talked to you, you'd refuse, and he knows it. He's not giving you the choice because he knows you'd choose wrong. That's what he said to me. She'd choose wrong. Elena laughed. It came out ugly. That arrogant. She pressed her palm flat against her mouth. She didn't finish the sentence. She turned away from Victor, her back to him, and she stood there shaking, the folder hanging from her other hand. I'm sorry, Victor said. I told him not to do it this way. Get out. Elena Get out of my house, Victor. He went. He set his business card down on the entry table. She could hear the little slap of it on the marble. And he walked out into the rain and closed the door behind him. Elena stood in the middle of her sitting room for a long time. Then she sat down on the rug. Just sat down, right there, the folder in her lap, her robe bunched around her hips, and she put both hands on her still flat stomach, and she did not cry. She thought very clearly, for the first time in 16 days. He doesn't know I'm pregnant. And in the next breath, the thought that would rearrange the rest of her life. I'm not going to tell him. She moved in silence. That was the part later that people would have trouble understanding. How a woman raised in Connecticut comfort, a woman who'd never packed her own luggage before she met Roman, had moved with the economy of a professional. But Elena had been married to Roman Varick for 6 years. She had watched him. She had listened, even when he thought she wasn't listening. And somewhere in her, beneath the book club membership and the monthly charity galas, there was a woman who had been quietly mapping her own escape routes for a long, long time. She just hadn't known she was doing it until that night. She went upstairs. She opened the walk-in closet and she pulled down the soft-sided black duffel from the top shelf, the one Roman had given her in case of emergency, in case something happens and I can't reach you. Inside it, as he'd shown her, was $40,000 in cash in 3 currencies, a clean passport and a name she'd never used, and a prepaid phone still in its plastic wrap. She added 2 sets of clothes. Underwear, a hoodie, 1 framed photograph, which she took out of the frame, a small pouch of jewelry her grandmother had left her. Nothing Roman had bought her, nothing traceable. She stood in front of the mirror in the closet that smelled like his cologne, and for the first time since the folder landed in her hands, she felt the tears come. She let them. She didn't fight them. She cried in total silence, tears streaming, her mouth open, her hand pressed to her lower abdomen. And when she was finished, she splashed cold water on her face and she zipped the bag. In the kitchen, she took her wedding ring off. She set it on the island, on top of a post-it note, and then she picked up the pen and she stopped. What did you write? Dear Roman, you broke my heart in the most expensive way a man can break a heart, by trying to save me from yourself. I hope you rot in the tower you built. I hope you think of me every night. I hope you remember what my voice sounds like and forget what it said. She didn't write any of that. She wrote, in the end, 3 words. I sign too. And she left. She took the back stairs down to the garage. She didn't take the Range Rover Roman had bought her. She took the old Honda the housekeeper used for grocery runs, the one with the dent in the passenger door and the bobblehead on the dash. She drove out through the service alley, turned right on Grand, and did not look back. She drove for 6 hours. Somewhere past the second state line, she pulled into the parking lot of a 24-hour diner and she finally broke. She sat in the Honda with the engine ticking in the cold, and she cried until her whole body hurt, until she thought she might throw up again, until there was nothing left in her, and the only thing holding her upright was the small, insistent fact of the lime-sized life inside her. Then she wiped her face, and she went inside, and she ordered coffee she couldn't drink, and a slice of pie she ate every bite of, and at 5:47 in the morning, under the yellow fluorescent lights of a diner she'd never seen before in her life, Elena Cross stopped existing. A woman named Sarah Miller took her place. 4 nights later, Roman stood in the doorway of a bedroom that still smelled like her shampoo. He had come home expecting an empty house. He had not expected it to feel like this. The empty was, he hadn't had a word for it until this moment. It was a presence, not an absence. It sat in the chairs she used to sit in. It stood in the kitchen where she used to hum while she cooked. It was in the light over the piano that she'd always left on for him when he came home late, and which was now, for the first time in 6 years, off. He walked through the house like a man walking through a museum of his own life. In the kitchen, on the island, the post-it note was still there. Under it, her wedding ring. He picked up the ring. He read the note. I signed too. He read it a second time, a third. Then Roman Varek, the man who had ordered the execution of Yuri Solikin in front of his own brother, the man who ran half the ports on the eastern seaboard, the man whose name the police commissioner would not say out loud in his own home, put his hand flat on the marble countertop, leaned forward, and made a sound he hadn't made since his mother died when he was 11 years old. It was not a cry. It was more private than that. It was a sound a man makes when he finally understands what he has done. He slid down the side of the island, and he sat on the cold kitchen floor with his wife's wedding ring in his fist, and the sun came up over Blackwater City, and he didn't move for 3 hours. By noon, he was operational again. He called Victor. Victor arrived within 12 minutes, which meant he had been waiting for the call. Roman was showered, shaved, in a black suit. His eyes were clear, his hands were still. This was the Roman Victor knew, the one that made men on 4 continents sleep with a gun under the pillow. Find her, Roman said. Boss, I'm not going to bring her back. I'm not going to talk to her. I'm not going to send her flowers or a card or a man. I'm going to know where she is. I'm going to know what she eats for breakfast. I'm going to know the name of her landlord and the make of the car she drives and the route she takes to whatever job she takes. And I am going to make sure that no one, Victor, not Dragov, not the Bratva, not a purse snatcher on the street, gets within 50 feet of her. Do you understand me? Yes. Quietly. Yes. She is not to know. Victor paused. And if she's with someone else? Eventually? A man? The muscle in Roman's jaw jumped once. Then I'll know that too, he said, and I'll leave her alone. That's the deal I made. That's the whole point. Victor nodded. Go, Roman said. Victor went. Roman stood in his study on the 32nd floor, the city laid out beneath him like a circuit board, and he slipped his dead wife's wedding ring onto the chain around his neck, next to his mother's crucifix, and he tucked them both down under his shirt where no one would ever see them. He didn't know she was pregnant. He wouldn't know for 5 years. She settled in a town called Cedar Hollow, population 18,000, tucked into the foothills of a mountain range she couldn't have found on a map 3 months earlier. It was the kind of town where people waved at you from their trucks, and the grocery store closed at 9. She rented a small yellow house with a fenced yard and a porch swing. She got a job at the public library, shelving books 20 hours a week. She paid cash for everything for the first 8 months. She didn't make friends. She didn't date. She didn't call her mother. Her mother thought she was dead, and for now, that was better. She gave birth at a small regional hospital on a bright April morning, alone. The nurse asked who to call. No one, Elena said. The nurse, a woman named Betty with a soft gray braid and kind eyes, did not ask twice. She just squeezed Elena's hand through the contraction and said, You're doing fine, honey. You're doing just fine. The baby came in 14 hours. A girl, 7 pounds 4 ounces, a full head of black hair and her father's gray eyes. Elena held her daughter to her chest and looked down at that small, impossible face. The face of the only man she had ever loved, looking back at her from the body of something brand new. And she said, out loud to the empty room, Arya. Your name is Arya. Arya, because it meant air. Because it meant song. Because Elena was going to spend the rest of her life making sure this child got to breathe and sing in a world that would never know the name Varek. She wept into the baby's hair. Then she wiped her face, and she started her new life. 600 miles away, Roman did not sleep. He had a suite of rooms in the penthouse of the Varek Tower. He used the bedroom the way other men used a hotel. To change clothes, to shower, occasionally to lie flat on his back and stare at the ceiling until dawn. He did not bring women there. He did not bring women anywhere. The staff talked at first, and then they stopped talking because there was nothing to talk about. Every Friday, Victor brought him a folder. The folders were thin. They had to be. Roman had given strict instructions. No photographs closer than 100 feet. No names of people she spoke to. No details about her daily routine beyond the broad outlines. He wanted to know she was alive. He wanted to know she was safe. He did not want to know what she looked like when she laughed, because if he saw that, he wasn't sure what he'd do. He read the folders in his study, alone, with the door locked. The first folder, 3 months in. Subject is established in small town, northern region. Employment obtained. Housing secured. No contact with former associates. No known romantic partners. The second folder, 6 months in. Subject's routine stable. Health appears good. Financial situation adequate. No threats detected. The third folder, 9 months in, was different. Roman opened it in the study on a Friday evening in April. The rain had come back. It always seemed to be raining in Blackwater City when his life changed. He read the first line and he read it again, and then he sat very still for a full minute without breathing. Subject gave birth to a female child on April 14th at 6:23 a.m. Mother and child in good health. He closed the folder. He opened it again. He read the line a third time, a fourth, a fifth. His vision did a strange thing. It narrowed, the edges blurring, the words in the center of the page unnaturally sharp. He pushed back from the desk. He stood up. He walked to the window. He stared out at his city. April 14th. He counted backwards on his fingers like a boy doing homework. 9 months, plus change. The last time he had been with his wife was, his mind went, unbidden, to the exact bed, the exact moment, the exact slant of morning light. 3 weeks before the divorce. 3 weeks before he had sat in this very room and signed her away like she was a piece of property he could return to the store. She had been pregnant. When he signed the papers, she had been pregnant. She had left him. No. That wasn't right. He had left her. He had pushed her out the door with both hands, and she had gone. And she had gone carrying his child, and she had not told him. She had not told him. Roman pressed his forehead against the cold glass of the window, and for a long time he did not move. 32 floors below, his city went about its filthy business, and up here, in the dark, in the rain, a man who had ordered dozens of deaths and never flinched was reckoning with the one thing he could not bring back by force. Finally he spoke, and his voice was very low, very calm. Victor. Victor stepped out of the shadows where he had been waiting. He had known, when he read the report, what was about to happen. He had not given the folder to a courier. He had brought it himself. Yes, boss. I have a daughter. Yes, boss. Roman closed his eyes. What's her name? The subject has not... Victor caught himself. Elena has not filed the birth certificate under her real name. We have a copy of the unofficial record from the hospital. The child's name is Arya. Arya. Yes? Arya what? Miller, on paper. Arya Miller. Roman laughed. It was a short, broken sound. Miller. His wife had become someone named Sarah Miller, and his daughter was Arya Miller, and somewhere in a small town he had never heard of, his entire life was walking around under a name that wasn't his. He turned around. Nobody, he said. Nobody knows about this. You understand me, Victor? Not your men, not the accountants, not the guards. This information ends in this room tonight. Already done. If Dragov finds out I have a child, he won't. If anyone finds out, they won't, boss. On my life. Roman nodded. He stood there in the dark, in a $5,000 suit with a wedding ring on a chain under his shirt, and the knowledge that he had a daughter whose face he had never seen. I want to see her, he said quietly. Boss? Once, from a distance, that's all. Tell me when, tell me where. I'll go alone. Roman, that's not what we... Once, Victor. Victor looked at him for a long moment, then he nodded. I'll arrange it. Thank you. Victor hesitated at the door. Boss, I have to ask. Ask? What do you do now? With the business? With the war? Dragov's not getting smaller. He's getting bigger. If you have a daughter, if there's a child out there, the calculus changes. Are you going to... I'm going to finish what I started. Roman's voice was ice. I sent her away to keep her safe. If I run out now, she's not safe. Dragov has to die. Every man with a grudge against the Varric name has to understand what happens when they think about my family. Then I can think about something else. And if that takes 10 years, then it takes 10 years. Victor nodded. He closed the door behind him. Roman stood alone in the dark, and he pulled the chain out from under his shirt, and he held Elena's wedding ring between his thumb and forefinger, and he did the only thing he had left to do. He made a promise to a child he had never met. I won't come near you, he thought. I won't touch you. I won't let you know my name. But as long as I'm breathing, no one will ever hurt you. I swear it. On everything I am, on everything I've done, on everything I'll do. He slid the ring back under his shirt, against his sternum, where his heart was still, somehow, beating. Outside, the rain kept coming. 3 weeks later, on a Saturday in early May, a plain black SUV with tinted windows parked 3 blocks from a small yellow house in Cedar Hollow. Inside the SUV, Roman Varek sat in the back seat, in jeans and a dark jacket, and a baseball cap pulled low over his eyes, and he watched. He watched a young woman with her hair pulled back into a messy bun push a stroller down the sidewalk. She was wearing a denim jacket he didn't recognize. She had lost weight. She had gained a kind of quiet he didn't remember. She was laughing at something, at the baby, he realized. She was laughing at the baby in the stroller, who was apparently telling her a very serious story using nothing but spit bubbles in one tiny outraged fist. Roman pressed his hand flat against the window. The stroller rolled past, 20 feet from the car. He could not see the baby's face from this angle, only a flash of dark hair under a pink cotton hat, only a tiny hand waving at the sky. Elena stopped at the corner. She looked both ways. She bent down over the stroller to adjust something, a sock, a blanket, Roman couldn't tell. And she smiled at her daughter, and for a single, searing half-second, Elena looked up and her gaze swept past the SUV without seeing him. Roman did not breathe. She straightened up. She crossed the street. She kept walking, and he watched her go until the stroller turned a corner and disappeared, and then he sat in the back of the car with both hands flat on his thighs, and he did not make a sound. Boss. Drive. Boss, are you? Drive, Victor. The car pulled away from the curb. Roman did not look back. He did not look back because he knew, with a certainty that chilled him, that if he looked back, he would get out of the car, and he would run down that sidewalk, and he would fall on his knees in front of his wife and beg her to come home, and it would be selfish, and it would be weak, and it would be the last mistake he ever made. So he faced forward. He faced forward all the way to the interstate. He faced forward all the way back to the city that ate men for a living. And somewhere behind him, in a town whose name he would not say out loud even in his sleep, a woman pushed a stroller home and hummed to her daughter. And did not know, did not even suspect, that the deadliest man in Blackwater City had just watched her cross a street and had chosen, for the second time in his life, to let her go. 5 years passed. They passed quietly for Elena, which was the whole point. Arya learned to walk at 13 months, a tottering, drunk sailor walk across the living room rug, arms out, grinning so hard her whole face scrunched up. She learned to say mama at 14 months and no at 15, and the order of those 2 words was, Elena thought privately, a pretty good summary of motherhood. She started preschool at 3. She had a best friend named Lucy with a gap in her front teeth. She had a stuffed rabbit named Mr. Pepper that was missing 1 ear. She cried at thunderstorms and laughed at her own farts, and refused, absolutely refused, to eat anything green. She had her father's eyes. Elena never stopped noticing it. Every morning, when she lifted Arya out of her little bed, she would look down into those serious gray eyes and feel the ghost of Roman pass through her like a current. Sometimes she wanted to scream at the unfairness of it. Sometimes, in the middle of the night, she held her daughter in the dark, and she whispered things to her that she could never say to anyone awake. Your father was a good man who did bad things. Your father loved you before he knew you existed. Your father is the reason you have this nose. Your father doesn't know your name. And sometimes, God help her, sometimes she missed him so badly it knocked her flat. She had not dated. She had not even considered it. There was a librarian named Tom at work who had a kind face and a gentle laugh, and he had asked her to coffee twice, and both times she had smiled and said, I'm so sorry, Tom. I just can't right now. And he had nodded like he understood, which he did not. How could he? How do you explain to a nice man with a library card that you had once been married to a ghost, and that the ghost was still, in some essential way, living in the next room? You don't. You just keep saying, I'm sorry, Tom, until he stops asking. The years passed. They passed differently for Roman. They passed in blood, most of it. He burned out 3 separate attempts on his life in the first 18 months. One in a parking garage, one in a restaurant, one in his own lobby at 2 in the morning. He lost 4 men, including one he had known since he was 20. He put 2 bullets into Yakov Dragov, Mikhail's younger brother, in a warehouse in the Docks district and left the body for the police to find because he wanted Mikhail to understand the shape of what was coming. Mikhail understood. Mikhail went quiet. That was the worst part. A loud enemy was a manageable enemy. A quiet enemy was an enemy doing math. For nearly 3 years, Mikhail Dragov did no business with Roman Varek, retaliated for nothing, spoke his name in no public room. He moved like a man setting a very long table for a very specific dinner. And every Friday, without fail, Victor brought Roman a folder. Subject and child, routine stable, no threats detected. Subject and child, routine stable, no threats detected. Subject and child, routine stable, no threats detected. Roman read each one. He filed each one. He slept, on the nights he slept at all, with the folders in a locked drawer beside his bed and Elena's ring against his chest. And he told himself every single morning when he woke up alone that he was doing the right thing. Most mornings, he even believed it. On the Tuesday that would end his peace of mind forever, Victor came into the study without knocking. Roman was at the desk, going over shipment manifests. He looked up. He saw Victor's face. He set the pen down very carefully. What? We have a problem. Dragov? Dragov. Roman closed the folder in front of him. Talk. One of his people, a man named Orlov, he runs their intelligence, was seen last Thursday meeting with a private investigator out of Denver. Harmless-looking guy, contracts mostly divorces and insurance fraud. Until you run his phone. Orlov hired him 6 months ago. The investigator has been running databases, hospital records, birth certificates, property transfers, small-town stuff, filtered by timeline. Last 9 years. Roman's hand didn't move from the desk. He's looking for a woman, he said. He's looking for a woman who disappeared in November 6 years ago and resurfaced somewhere rural with a child under the age of 5. How close is he? Victor hesitated. He found 3 candidates. He's narrowing. Is she one of them? Yes. How many are left on the list? 2. Roman stood up. The chair rolled back silently on the carpet. He walked to the window. He put his hand flat on the glass in the exact spot he had put it 6 years ago, on the night he had sat on the kitchen floor with her ring in his fist. When will he know? Roman said quietly. Best estimate? 36 hours. Maybe less. And then he'll send men. He'll send men. Roman turned around, turned. In Victor's entire 21 years of standing next to Roman Varek, he had seen his friend angry exactly 6 times. He was about to see it a 7th, but this anger wasn't loud. It wasn't hot. It was the cold, quiet, moving parts anger of a man who had spent 6 years building a wall and who had just watched the first crack run through it. Get the car, Roman said. Boss, get the car, Victor. We're going to Cedar Hollow. You said you would never... I know what I said. Roman was already reaching for his coat. I was wrong. I was wrong 6 years ago, and I'm wrong now if I sit in this tower 1 more hour. He's coming for my daughter, Victor. He's coming for my daughter. I'm not reading about her in a folder anymore. Victor looked at him. Then Victor nodded once and turned and went to get the car. And Roman Varek walked out of the study on the 32nd floor of the Varek Tower for what he did not yet know would be the last time as the man he had spent 6 years pretending to be. Outside, the rain had stopped. For the first time in a long time, Blackwater City was quiet. It wouldn't stay that way. The drive out of Blackwater City took 40 minutes longer than it should have because Victor kept doubling back. He took the river road out past the refineries, then cut north on a County 2 lane that didn't show up on most GPS systems, then swung west again at a gas station Roman had never seen before in his life. Victor drove the way he did everything, quietly, methodically, with the faint grim look of a man who had already imagined 6 ways this ended badly and was trying to prevent the 7th. Roman sat in the back of the black SUV with a phone in his lap that he did not pick up. Talk to me, he said finally. Nothing to say yet, boss. Then talk to me about nothing. Victor's eyes flicked to the mirror. He saw something in Roman's face, something Victor had seen maybe twice in all their years, and he answered the way he would have answered any command. Weather's turning, Victor said. Supposed to rain up in the hills tonight. They get the runoff from the mountain snow, makes the road slick. There's only one way in and out of Cedar Hollow from the south. Route 9. 2 lanes, no shoulder, heavy tree cover on both sides. If Dragov sends a team, that's the road they take. And from the north? Logging roads. Most of them chained off. A few you can get through if you know the area. The sheriff's a retired state trooper named Halloran. Clean record. 40-year-old daughter, 2 grandkids. Doesn't know anything about anything, but he's armed and he's awake and he answers his own radio at night, so that's something. And our people? 4 men in a cabin 12 miles out. I've had a team watching the perimeter rotation for 2 years. They've never been inside the town. She's never seen them. They check the roads at 3-hour intervals. They check the house every night at 2 a.m. They watch the school from a hill behind the baseball field. They do not engage. They do not approach. That's been the rule. Change the rule. Already did. Victor's hand tightened on the wheel. As soon as I got the Orlov report, I put them on active. 2 in the town, 2 on the approach roads. If a stranger sneezes in the wrong direction, we'll know. Roman nodded. He looked out the window. The sun was starting to drop behind the tree line, the light turning that particular late afternoon color that always made him think of his mother's hands, of how they had looked in the last week of her life, in a hospital room with the blinds half drawn. He did not know why he was thinking about his mother now. He did not want to be thinking about his mother now. Victor? Yes, boss. What if I've waited too long? Victor did not answer right away. He changed lanes. He checked his mirrors. He took the exit for Route 9, and the SUV dipped down into a valley of dark pine and climbing fog, and only then did he speak. You haven't waited too long, he said. You just waited long enough to be the one who gets there first. That's not the same thing. Roman closed his eyes. He pressed his thumb and forefinger against the bridge of his nose. He could feel Elena's wedding ring against his sternum, warm from his body, 6 years' worth of warm. Don't lie to me, Victor. I never have. It was true. In 21 years, through every war, every betrayal, every long night in every bad place, Victor Kozlov had never once lied to Roman Varric. Roman opened his eyes and looked at the back of his friend's head and felt, for one strange second, something dangerously close to gratitude. He pushed it down. Gratitude got men killed. Love got men killed. Hope got men killed. He was driving toward a woman and a child he had already failed once, and he could not afford to be soft for a single one of the miles left. The SUV climbed higher into the hills. The pine gave way to birch. The birch gave way to a thin river that ran alongside the road, black and fast and cold-looking even through the window. They passed a hand-painted sign that said, Cedar Hollow welcomes you in flaking blue letters, with a crooked little pine tree painted underneath it by somebody who had loved that town enough to paint a pine tree on a welcome sign. Roman stared at it until it slid out of view behind them. Stop the car, he said. Boss, stop the car, Victor. Victor pulled over onto the gravel shoulder. The engine ticked. A crow called once from the trees. Roman got out. He walked to the edge of the road where the shoulder sloped down to the river, and he stood there with his hands in his coat pockets, and he looked at the water for a long moment. Victor got out and stood a respectful distance behind him. He did not speak. She lives here, Roman said, mostly to himself. Yes, boss? She walks by this river. Sometimes, yes. There's a path about a mile up. She brings the kid. Sometimes. Roman nodded slowly. He was not going to cry. Roman Varric did not cry in front of subordinates, and Roman Varric did not cry in front of himself. And Roman Varric had not cried since the night he'd signed her away, in the dark, on a kitchen floor. But there was a small, hot pressure behind his eyes, and he let himself feel it for exactly the 3 seconds it took to breathe in and out, and then he turned around and walked back to the SUV. Take me to her, he said. Victor hesitated. Boss, the plan was to hold position outside of town, observe, coordinate with the men on the ground, intercept if anyone comes. The plan changed, Roman said, the minute Orlov found her. Take me to her, Victor. I'm going to knock on her door. If she slams it in my face, at least she'll know. At least she'll know there's a reason to run. Victor looked at him over the roof of the car. She's going to slam it in your face, he said. I know. She's going to scream at you. I hope so. Boss, the child. She's going to see you in front of her child. Are you ready for that? Roman opened the door. He paused, with one hand on the frame, and he looked across the roof at his oldest friend, and for the first time since they had left the tower, he smiled. It was not a good smile. It was the smile of a man who had run out of options and was finally, privately, relieved. No, he said, but I'm going to do it anyway. They got back in the car. The yellow house sat at the end of a cul-de-sac named Birch Lane, in a neighborhood that looked like every other neighborhood in every other small town in the country. Uneven sidewalks, chain-link fences with lilac bushes pushing through, a basketball hoop on a pole with a sagging net. Somebody had mowed their lawn that morning. Roman could smell the cut grass. Somebody else had grilled burgers. That smell lingered too. A sprinkler hissed in a yard across the street. A dog barked twice, thought better of it, and stopped. Victor pulled into a gravel driveway 3 doors down and killed the engine. The men are staged, he said quietly. One on the corner of Birch and Oak, pretending to fix a mailbox. One in a landscaping truck on the cross street. I'm going to stay with the vehicle. You have 90 seconds of hard cover if anything goes wrong. After that, we're improvising. Nothing's going to go wrong. Everything is going to go wrong, boss. It just hasn't gone wrong yet. Roman almost laughed. He got out. He walked. The sun was low and amber through the trees. Somewhere nearby, a kid was shrieking with laughter. The kind of high, pure shriek you only ever hear from a child who has never been afraid of anything in her life. Roman slowed his pace. He made himself take it in. The sound of the sprinkler, the smell of grass, the crunch of gravel under his shoes, the particular golden weight of this small, ordinary hour on this small, ordinary street, and the knowledge that if he had been a different kind of man, this could have been his life. He turned up the walk of the yellow house. There were 3 empty flower pots on the porch steps. A pair of tiny purple rain boots by the door, turned over to dry. A welcome mat that said, in blue script, "Y'all come in," which made something twist hard in his chest. Elena had grown up in Greenwich. Elena did not say y'all. Elena had chosen that mat on purpose, as a kind of costume, as a kind of camouflage. She had built a whole life out of small lies like this. He knocked. Inside, the laughter stopped. There was a beat of silence. He heard footsteps. Small, fast ones, a kid running. Then a woman's voice, soft and scolding. "Baby, let me get it. What did I tell you about the door?" The door opened. Elena's face went through 4 expressions in about half a second. First, the ordinary, slightly harried, pleasant smile of a woman expecting the UPS man. Then the dawning, the slow, uncomprehending dawning that the man on her porch was not the UPS man. Then the recognition. Then, last, a thing that was not really an expression at all, just her whole face emptying out like someone had pulled a drain plug. She did not speak. Roman did not speak either. They stood there, a screen door between them, 6 years of silence between them, and he watched her hand come up slowly and grip the frame so hard her knuckles went white. "Mama, who is it?" The voice came from behind Elena's hip, small, curious, unafraid. Elena did not turn around. She did not take her eyes off of Roman's face. She said very quietly, "Arya, go get Mr. Pepper for me, okay? He's in your room. Go get him and bring him to the kitchen. I'll be right there." "But Mama—" "Now, baby, please." The little footsteps retreated. A door opened somewhere inside the house. Elena's hand was still on the frame. Roman still had not moved. "No," Elena said. "Just that. Just no." "Elena? No, no. You don't get to be here. You don't get to stand on my porch. You don't get to say my name. Go back to your car. Go back to your tower. Go back to whatever you came from. And you leave, Roman. I swear to... Dragov found you." Her mouth stopped working. He said it again because he needed her to hear it through the panic he could see climbing up her neck in red blotches. "Elena, listen to me. Mikhail Dragov hired a man. The man has been looking for you for 6 months. He has narrowed it down to 2 possibilities. You are one of them. He will know by tomorrow night. If he knows, Dragov knows. If Dragov knows, He is going to send people here and he is going to kill you. And he is going to kill Arya and he is going to put it on a phone so that I can watch it later. So I need you to open this door and I need you to listen to me for 5 minutes and then I swear, Elena, I will do whatever you want. I will leave. I will stay. I will die on this porch. Whatever you want. But first you have to let me in. Her breath was coming in short, hard pulls. Her pupils had blown wide. She looked for a moment like a woman about to pass out. You're lying. I'm not. You're lying, Roman. You're standing on my porch after 6 years and telling me, when has Victor ever been wrong? She closed her eyes. In the dim hallway behind her, Roman could see the edge of a child's drawing taped to the wall. A stick figure, mom, a stick figure kid, a crayon son with a smiling face. He looked at it, and he felt something slide sideways inside his chest. Please, he said. It came out strange. It had been so long since he had used the word on anyone. Please, Elena. She stepped back. She did not open the door all the way, just wide enough for him, and she did not meet his eyes as he crossed the threshold. She turned her back and walked down the hallway, and Roman followed her into the home she had made without him. It was not a big house. There was a living room on the right with a blue couch and a coffee table covered in crayons, and a small kitchen straight ahead with a window over the sink that looked out on a fenced backyard. A stuffed rabbit with one ear sat on the kitchen table, propped up against a juice glass like it was being interrogated. A child's drawing was stuck to the refrigerator with an alphabet magnet. M-O-M, in big, uneven letters. Elena went to the sink. She turned on the tap. She filled a glass of water that she didn't drink, and she stood with her back to him, and her hands braced on the counter, and he could see her shoulders trembling. How did you find me? She said. I've always known where you were. The shoulders stopped trembling. They went still in a different way. You've what? Since the week after you left. Roman. Elena, I had to know you were safe. I never came close. I never interfered. I never let anyone else know. Victor and I, that's it. I had 4 men assigned to you, from a distance, watching. If something had happened to you, they would have... She turned around. Her face was wet. He had not seen her cry since the first year of their marriage, when her mother had gone into the hospital and come out with half her liver and a prognosis. Elena did not cry. Elena swallowed things, and now she was standing in her own kitchen with tears running down her cheeks, and she was looking at him like she did not know who he was. You watched me. Yes. For 6 years. Yes. You watched me push a stroller. You watched me take her to the park. You watched me... God, Roman, you watched me at her preschool play. You watched me at the library pancake breakfast. I saw some of it. You saw it, she said, her voice rising. You saw it, like it was a television show, like I was... Keep your voice down. Don't you tell me... Keep your voice down, Elena. She's in the house. Elena stopped. She put both hands over her mouth. She held them there for a long moment, breathing in through her nose, and then she lowered them slowly, and she said, in a flat, exhausted voice, You saw her. I saw her once. When? When she was 10 months old. You were pushing her in a stroller up by the school. You were wearing a denim jacket. She had a pink hat on. She was waving her fist at the sky. You stopped on the corner and you bent down and you fixed something. A sock, maybe. I couldn't tell. And you smiled at her, and I watched you smile, and I drove back to the city, and I have not come within 100 miles of this town since. Until today. Elena made a sound. It was not a cry. It was smaller than a cry. It was the sound a person makes when a piece of information lodges somewhere inside them that they are not going to be able to dig out for a very long time. You saw her, she said. Once, Elena, I swear. You saw her and you didn't. I couldn't, you understand? If I'd touched her then, if I'd said one word to her, that was it. That was the life. That was her life, forever. A life of bodyguards and fake names and looking over her shoulder. I wanted her to have this. He gestured at the kitchen, at the alphabet magnets, at the stuffed rabbit. I wanted her to have a house that smells like pancakes and purple rain boots and a mom who gets to just be her mom without me, without the blood. Don't, Elena said. Elena, Don't you dare try to make me feel sorry for you in my own kitchen. Don't you dare, Roman. You took the choice away from me. You signed those papers. You sent Victor to my door in the rain like I was a contract you were breaking. You didn't ask. You decided. I know. I was pregnant. I know. I was pregnant and scared, and I sat on a bathroom floor in our house for an hour trying to figure out how to tell you, and while I was trying to figure out how to tell you, you were signing me away. Do you have any idea? Roman, do you have any idea what that did to me? I have some idea. You have no idea. Okay? You have no idea. Okay, Elena. She turned away. She braced her hands on the counter again. Her back was shaking. He wanted to go to her. He wanted to put his hands on her shoulders, to bury his face in her hair the way he used to whisper apologies in her ear until the words ran out, and then keep whispering anyway. He did not move. He knew, with the animal clarity of a man who had survived a long time by reading rooms, that if he touched her right now, she would claw his eyes out. Mama? The small voice came from the doorway. Both of them turned. Arya stood in the hall in a pair of unicorn pajamas. She had Mr. Pepper clutched under one arm. Her black hair was fluffy from the couch she had just climbed off of. She was looking up, wide-eyed and serious, and her gray eyes, Roman's eyes, his mother's eyes Roman Varick saw every single morning in the mirror, went from her mother's wet face to the stranger in their kitchen. Mama, why are you crying? Elena drew a breath. She wiped her face with both hands, fast, and she crouched down, and she held out her arms, and Arya ran to her. Elena caught her up and lifted her onto her hip. She was getting big for that. Elena's knees buckled a little, and she stroked the back of her daughter's head, and she said very softly, Mama's not crying, baby. Mama's got something in her eye. Who's that man? Elena stopped. She looked at Roman over the top of Arya's head, and in her eyes he saw, for the first time that night, not rage, not grief, but a bright, hard flicker of fear. The kind of fear that does math. The kind of fear a mother has when she realizes she does not know, in this exact moment, how to answer a question. He's an old friend of Mama's, Elena said finally. He came a long way to talk to me. Is he going to stay for dinner? No, baby, no, I'd like to, Roman said. Both of them looked at him. He had spoken very quietly. He had spoken to Arya. He had crouched, too. Slowly, carefully, the way you lower yourself near a small, skittish animal, both hands visible, until his face was roughly level with hers. He did not reach for her. He did not smile. He met the serious gray gaze of his only child, and he said very gently, It's okay with your mom. I'd like very much to stay for dinner, just this once. Arya considered him the way small children consider strangers, with complete, unashamed, forensic attention. She looked at his eyes, she looked at his hands, she looked at his shoes, she looked back at his eyes. Your eyes are like mine, she said. Elena made a tiny sound. Yeah, Roman said. Yeah, they are. That's weird. A little bit. What's your name? Roman opened his mouth. He closed it. He looked up at Elena. Elena's face was a long, quiet warning. He looked back at Arya. He said, My name is Roman. That's a weird name, too. Yeah. Mama, can he stay? He came a long way. Elena's mouth trembled. For a long moment, Roman thought she was going to say no, and he had decided he would accept a no. He would get up. He would nod to her. He would walk out the front door, and he would sit in the SUV with Victor, and he would figure out a way to protect them both from across the street, the way he had been doing for 6 years. He was prepared for no. She didn't say no. 1 hour, she said to him. 1 hour, Roman. Then you go. Yes. You don't ask her anything. You don't tell her anything. You answer what she asks. If she asks something you can't answer, you look at me. You understand? Yes. Come set the table, baby. Mr. Roman's going to eat with us. Okay, Mama. Arya wiggled down from Elena's hip. She marched over to a drawer and pulled it open and took out 3 napkins with the self-important concentration of a 5-year-old who has been given a very important job. And as she walked past Roman with the napkins held in both hands, she stopped. She looked up at him. Do you like chicken nuggets? Roman, who owned a restaurant in Blackwater City, where a single entree cost more than most people's rent, cleared his throat. "Love them," he said. "Good." Arya nodded, satisfied. "Mama made the dinosaur kind." She went on by, clutching her napkins. Roman stood up slowly. He looked at Elena. Elena was staring at him with an expression he could not quite read. Some mixture of grief and fury and wonder and something older than any of them. Something that had been buried for 6 years and had just, unwillingly, been dragged back up into the light. "Set the table," she said, her voice uneven. "The plates are in the cabinet next to the fridge." So Roman Varick, who had not set a table in 20 years, set a table for 3 in a small yellow kitchen in a town he had only ever seen through a car window. And he did it with hands that shook just slightly, and Elena watched him do it, and the microwave beeped, and somewhere outside a dog barked twice and stopped, and the sun went all the way down behind the trees. Dinner lasted 34 minutes. They were the most unreal 34 minutes of Roman Varick's life. Arya sat between them and talked with the unbroken fluency of a child who has an audience for the first time, about her friend Lucy, about how Lucy's cat had had kittens, about how Mr. Pepper's ear had fallen off at the park, and Mama had sewn it back on twice, but the second time it fell off again, and now he was a one-eared rabbit. And that was okay because he was a pirate now. She ate 3 chicken nuggets and a pile of ketchup. She asked Roman if he had any kids, and Roman said no, not really, and she said that was sad and offered him Mr. Pepper to hold during dinner so he wouldn't be lonely. And Roman, who had ordered a man's legs broken the week before for lying about a shipment, held a one-eared stuffed rabbit in his lap for the rest of the meal and did not speak. Elena did not eat. She sat across from him, and she watched her daughter laugh at this strange, calm man. And she drank 3 glasses of water, and her hands did not stop shaking even once. When Arya was done, she declared that Mr. Pepper needed a bath, which meant he needed to sit in the sink, which meant she needed to go supervise, and she slid down from her chair and gave Roman a very serious pat on the knee. "You can have him back after, okay?" And marched off to the bathroom. The two of them sat alone in the kitchen. For a long time, neither spoke. The light over the table was warm and yellow. A moth bumped against the window screen. In the bathroom, a child was singing to a rabbit about soap. "I'm going to take her," Roman said quietly. "Tonight. You and her. Not back to the city. I have a place up north, a lake house, off the grid. No staff, no records. We'll stay there until I can find Dragov and end this. 6 weeks. Maybe 8. You'll have your own room. Arya will have her own room. You won't see me unless you want to see me. I'll bring Victor. I'll bring 2 other men you'll never meet. After it's done, I will bring you back here, and I will disappear again, and you'll never have to look at me for the rest of your life. I swear it." Elena stared at the wood grain of the kitchen table. "You're asking me to get in a car with you," she said, "and leave the life I built. I'm telling you that the life you built ends in 18 hours if you don't. I can run. I did it before. Dragov has your photo, Elena. He has your daughter's photo. He has every credit card record, every lease, every hospital bill. You can't outrun that. Not with a 5-year-old, not in a week, not in a year. I can. I have infrastructure. I have people. I have money you can't touch and places you can't rent. I am asking you, let me be useful to you. One time in my life, let me actually protect you instead of deciding for you." "You're still deciding for me," she said flatly. "You just brought a gun this time." Roman exhaled. He rubbed his mouth with his hand. "Yeah," he said. "I guess I am." She looked at him then. It was the first time she had really looked at him since she had opened the door. She looked at his face, at the gray in his temples that had not been there 6 years ago, at the deeper lines at the corners of his eyes, at the chain she could just see, at the notch of his collar that disappeared into his shirt. She had not asked about the chain. She did not ask now. "Does she know?" Elena said. "Know what?" "That you're her father." Roman lowered his eyes. He shook his head. "No." "Are you going to tell her?" "Not unless you say I can. Not ever, Roman. Not on a lake. Not in a cabin. Not after. Not 10 years from now when she's a teenager and she's angry at me about a curfew and she decides to go looking. We agree on that tonight, or I don't get in the car. Elena, that's the deal." He was quiet for a long moment. He thought about his daughter sitting in his lap, solemnly offering him a one-eared rabbit. He thought about her saying, "Your eyes are like mine." He thought about every Friday folder, every thin page of words on a desk that would never again be enough. He thought about what it had cost him 6 years ago to sign his name. He thought, this is what it costs now. "Okay," he said, "say it. I won't tell her I'm her father. Not ever. Not ever." Elena closed her eyes. A tear escaped. She didn't wipe it. "Okay," she said. "Pack her stuff, a small bag, favorite things. Mr. Pepper. Her blanket. I'll tell her we're going on an adventure." Elena. "What?" "Thank you." She looked at him. Her face was wet again. "Don't thank me, Roman," she said. "I'm not doing it for you." Victor was at the door 3 minutes later, the moment Roman texted him from the hallway. He came in without a word, nodded to Elena the way a man nods to a funeral widow, and went to work. He swept the house, quickly, quietly. He found Elena's emergency bag in the hall closet. She had kept it for 6 years, zipped and ready, and when Roman saw that he had to turn away for a second, Arya was told they were going on a surprise trip to a lake where they might see a moose, and Arya, who trusted her mother absolutely, accepted this the way children accept magic, by believing it. They walked out the front door at 8:47 p.m. Elena did not lock it. Later, she would not remember whether she had locked it. It would not matter. The SUV was pulled up to the curb. The landscaping truck was idling a block away. The man on the corner was no longer pretending to fix a mailbox. Arya was holding Mr. Pepper in one hand and her mother's hand in the other, looking around with the bright-eyed curiosity of a child who had never been outside at night in a nice car before. Roman opened the back door. "After you, kid," he said. Arya climbed in. Elena followed. Roman closed the door. He looked across the roof of the SUV at Victor. "Go," he said. Victor got behind the wheel. The engine started. The headlights came on. The SUV rolled down the quiet street, past the basketball hoop with the sagging net, past the house with the sprinkler still hissing, past the chain-link fence with the lilac bush pushing through. At the end of the block, at the stop sign, Victor paused. "Boss," he said, and his voice had changed. Roman looked up. Coming the other way down the cross street were 2 black sedans with no front plates. They were moving slowly. Their windows were tinted. They were the kind of cars that, if Roman had seen them in his own city, he would have drawn his weapon before he finished the blink. "Down," Roman said. "Everybody down." Elena pulled Arya into her lap and pressed her flat against her chest. Arya, for the first time that night, got scared. Roman heard her small, hitched breath, heard her start to whimper. And Elena murmured, "Baby, it's okay. It's okay. Mama's got you. It's a game. Put your face against me. Close your eyes." The sedans passed the stop sign without slowing. One, then the other. They did not look. They did not need to look. They knew exactly where they were going. They were going to the yellow house at the end of Birch Lane. Victor eased off the brake. He turned left, away from them. Slow, steady, just another SUV on just another quiet street. He took the corner at 15 miles an hour. He took the next one at 20. He accelerated, finally, only when the headlights had fallen out of the mirror, and only then, did anyone in the car breathe. In the back seat, Arya pressed her face into her mother's collarbone and started to cry. Elena held her. She looked up, past her daughter's hair, and her eyes met Roman's in the dim glow of the dashboard, and for one long suspended second, neither of them said a thing. Then Elena swallowed, hard, and pressed her lips to the top of Arya's head and closed her eyes. Outside, the hills rose dark against a darker sky. The river ran alongside the road, fast and cold. The SUV climbed. The lights of Cedar Hollow fell away behind them, one by one, and somewhere 8 blocks back a front door was being kicked in by men who had driven a long way for the wrong reasons, and who were about to find a kitchen with an empty chair, a stuffed rabbit missing from a table, and a woman and a child and a ghost gone. For now. The SUV climbed for 2 hours before anyone spoke again. Arya had cried herself out somewhere around the 3rd mile marker, the small, desperate sobs of a child who didn't know why she was afraid, only that her mother's body had gone rigid, and the man named Roman was speaking to Victor in short clipped syllables that sounded like they belonged to a language she had never heard. Elena had rocked her, slowly, in the back seat, her hand cupped against the back of her daughter's head, and she had whispered the same thing over and over, a private little chant. We're okay, we're okay, we're okay, Mama's got you, we're okay. Until Arya's breathing finally evened out and she slumped against her mother's chest, with Mr. Pepper wedged under one arm and her small mouth slightly open. Elena did not move for a long time after that. She held her daughter and she stared out the tinted window at the dark shape of the mountains, and she did not look at Roman. Roman did not look at her either. He sat in the front passenger seat with his phone in his lap, face tilted down, the blue light catching the line of his jaw. Every 2 or 3 minutes the phone would buzz, and his thumb would flick over the screen, and his face would not change. Victor drove. Finally, somewhere past a town whose name Elena did not catch, Roman said very quietly, without turning his head, "They went in at 9:04. Elena closed her eyes. 4 men, he said. Front door, back door, 2 on the perimeter. They cleared the house in 6 minutes. They didn't torch it. That's actually a bad sign. A torch means a message. Leaving it clean means they want to come back. Roman, they know she was there, Elena. They found her toothbrush. They found the refrigerator magnets. They know the mother's real. Roman. He stopped. He turned in the seat. Even in the dashboard glow, she could see the tight gray line of his mouth. What? Not in front of her, Elena whispered. Arya was asleep. Arya was very obviously asleep. But Elena did not care. Elena had spent 6 years protecting her daughter from words, from tones, from the particular quality of adult fear that sinks into the bedroom walls of a child's life and never quite comes out. And she was not going to let that work come undone in the back seat of an SUV on a mountain road. Roman looked at her for a long moment. Then he nodded once and turned back to his phone and did not speak again until they got to the lake. The house sat at the end of 3 miles of private dirt road, past a gate Victor unlocked with a key he wore around his neck, past a second gate Roman keyed open from the vehicle. It was not what Elena had been imagining. She had been imagining one of Roman's places. Marble, glass, the too white light of expensive emptiness. This was not that. This was a low, wide log house with a stone chimney and a wraparound porch and dark windows and a dock that stretched out over a black lake. And it looked less like a safe house than like somewhere a kind grandfather might have retired to 30 years ago. It was almost midnight. The stars up here were shocking, the way stars are shocking to city people, a scatter of broken glass across the whole sky. Victor killed the engine. For a moment, the only sound was the engine ticking, and somewhere across the water, a loon calling once in the dark. "Stay in the car until I clear it," he said. He got out. He went up the porch. He went inside. A light came on in one window, then another, then the porch light. He came back out. He nodded to Roman. "Clear." Roman got out. He opened Elena's door. "Let me take her," he said. Elena stiffened. "I've got her." "Elena, your arm fell asleep 2 hours ago. I can see it. Let me take her. I'll put her where you want her." She hesitated. Arya was heavy and warm, and her sleeping weight had gone slack in that dangerous, boneless way small children's bodies do. Elena's right arm was, in fact, dead to the elbow. She had not slept. She had not eaten since lunch. Her hands were shaking, and Roman was standing in the open door of an SUV in a state she did not know, on a piece of land she did not know, and he was asking her to pass her daughter to him for the first time in 5 years. She did it. He was very careful. He slid one arm under Arya's legs, one behind her back, and he lifted her with a gentleness Elena had forgotten he was capable of. Arya's head fell into the hollow of his shoulder. She did not wake up. Mr. Pepper dangled from her fist. "Where?" Roman said. "Wherever you were going to put me," Elena said. "She goes with me." Understood. He turned and walked toward the porch, Arya against his chest, and Elena stood by the open door of the SUV for one strange, suspended second and watched him, the father her daughter did not know she had, carry her daughter across a gravel drive under a sky full of stars. Her legs went briefly soft under her. She caught herself on the doorframe. Victor, without a word, took her bag from the trunk and walked beside her the rest of the way up. The house smelled like cedar and wood smoke. There was a stone fireplace laid with logs ready to light. There were thick wool blankets draped over the backs of leather chairs. There was a kitchen with copper pots hanging over a butcher block island. There was not a single photograph on a single wall. Not one. Upstairs, Roman said quietly, over his shoulder. End of the hall, corner room, 2 twin beds. I'll put her in the one by the window. She followed him up. The corner room had pine-paneled walls and a braided rug, and yes, 2 narrow twin beds with white quilts. Roman laid Arya down on the one by the window with the practiced smoothness of a man who had done this in his imagination 1,000 times. He eased her shoes off. He tucked the quilt up to her chin. He slid Mr. Pepper in beside her so the rabbit's one remaining ear was against her cheek. Then he straightened up. He looked down at his daughter's sleeping face. He stood there for a long time. Elena from the doorway watched his back, his shoulders, the small, uneven rise and fall of his breath. She did not interrupt. She could not have said why she did not interrupt. It was not mercy. She was not tonight in a merciful mood. It was something closer to recognition, the recognition that a man was doing in front of her, a thing so private that to speak would be to break it. After a minute or so, Roman reached into his collar and pulled out a chain, a plain gold chain. There were 2 things hanging from it. One was a small tarnished crucifix. The other was her wedding ring. He looked at the ring for a long second. Then he tucked them both back under his shirt. He turned. He walked past her without looking up, and he went downstairs, and she heard the screen door open and close, and she was alone in a strange bedroom with her sleeping daughter and a man named Victor somewhere else in the house making coffee she could smell from 2 rooms away. Elena sat down on the other twin bed. She put her face in her hands. She did not cry. She had cried enough for one night. Instead, she sat very still, and she listened to her daughter's small, snuffling breathing, and she let herself understand for the first time in 6 years that the life she had built in a yellow house on Birch Lane was over. It had ended at 9:04 tonight, and it had been over for 6 months before that, from the moment a man named Orlov had written her name at the top of a list. It had been over, possibly, from the minute she had driven the old Honda out of a Victorian brownstone in Blackwater City and told herself she was saving her child. You never saved anything, she thought. You just borrowed time. She took off her shoes, she pulled the quilt around her shoulders. She stretched out on her side so she could see Arya, and she kept her eyes open on her daughter's face until the eyes closed on their own, and she slept, finally, in the enemy's house. Roman was on the porch. He sat on the top step with his elbows on his knees and a glass of bourbon in his hand. Victor came out after a while and sat down beside him and handed him a second glass because the first was already gone. They did not talk for a while. The loon called again somewhere out over the water. A breeze moved through the pines. It's bad, Victor said finally. I know. It's bad in a new way, boss. They didn't torch the house. They didn't toss it. They walked through it the way you'd walk through a rental you're thinking of buying. Orlov's people are meticulous. Dragov didn't send killers tonight. He sent surveyors. Surveyors. He's confirming. He's measuring. He's figuring out how long she's been there, who she talks to, what she was to you. He's not done with his intelligence phase. He wants the whole picture before he moves. That buys us time. A little, not much. Once he has the picture, he will not hesitate. Roman took a slow drink. The bourbon burned pleasantly. He had not eaten either, not really, and the warmth spread into his chest with a kind of comfortable cruelty. I want to know how he found her, he said. Boss, I want to know, Victor. 6 years. 6 years of nothing. Our own people didn't know. Our own people, Victor. And Dragov's guy in Denver runs hospital records, and in 6 months he finds my wife. Explain that to me. Victor was silent. Victor. It's possible he had help. Roman turned his head slightly. He looked at his friend in the porch light. From who? I don't know yet, boss. I'm working on it. You have a guess? I have 2 guesses, and I'm not saying either of them until I have more than a guess. You know me. I don't do that to you. Roman looked at him for a long moment. Then he nodded, slowly, and turned back toward the lake. He knew Victor well enough to know that when Victor said he wasn't going to say something yet, he wasn't going to say it yet. He also knew Victor well enough to know that Victor would say it, eventually, and that when he did it would be bad. Inside job, he said quietly. Could be. From our side. Could be. Or could be she slipped at some point in 6 years. An emergency room visit in a city that cross-references with insurance. A cop pulled her license. Something small. Happens to everyone eventually. The question is which? Which do you think? I think, Victor said, we sleep tonight and we figure it out tomorrow. You're running on fumes, Roman. You're going to do something stupid if you don't sit down. I am sitting down. You know what I mean. Roman exhaled. He drained his glass. He set it on the step beside him and he pressed both hands flat over his face. She's up there, he said. Yes. My daughter is upstairs in this house. Yes. She thinks I'm a friend of her mother's. For tonight, that's what she needs to think. Roman lowered his hands. He looked out at the lake. The water was glass black. There was a thin ribbon of moonlight across it that wavered every time the breeze moved. I had a father, he said. It was not the kind of thing he said. Victor glanced at him but didn't answer. You know I had a father. You know what he did. That night in the garage when I was 13. You know about that. I know about that. I made myself a promise when I was 13 years old that I would never be a father. Not because I didn't want one. Because I was not going to be the kind of man who made a kid flinch, who made a kid go quiet when a door opened, who made a kid hear his name and hide. Boss? Victor, she offered me her rabbit. Victor said nothing. She looked at me and she saw I was sad, and she offered me her rabbit. She doesn't know me. She doesn't know one thing about me. She saw a stranger in her kitchen and decided I was lonely, and she offered me the most important thing she owns. That's who my kid is. That's what Elena made out of her, out of what I did, out of what I am. Elena's extraordinary, boss. She is. And so is the kid. I know. You understand, boss, that you have to leave them at the end of this. Not because of Elena, because of the child. You understand that, right? Roman was silent for a long time. I understand, he said finally. I understood 6 years ago. I understand tonight. Okay? Doesn't mean it doesn't hurt. Never said it didn't. They sat there, two middle-aged men on a porch step at the edge of a black lake, and they did not speak again for a long while. Eventually, Victor put a hand on Roman's shoulder, squeezed once, and stood up. He went back inside. Roman stayed. Up in the corner bedroom, Arya rolled over in her sleep and made a small sound and reached, by automatic habit, for her mother's hand. Her mother's hand was there. It had always been there. It would be there for as long as Elena Cross drew breath. Ski! Elena woke at 5:17 in the morning to the sound of a voice she hadn't heard in 6 years. Roman was in the kitchen. The door at the bottom of the stairs was open a crack, and his voice was low, and he was speaking the way he used to speak in the study late at night when he thought she was asleep, in that calm, level tone that meant he was ordering someone to do something that was probably illegal and certainly final. No, you pull everyone off the Halstead account. I don't care about the Halstead account. The Halstead account is going to have to wait. I want your 4 best men on my gate by tonight. Elena got out of bed carefully. She pulled the quilt up over Arya's shoulder. She padded to the door in her socks and she stood at the top of the stairs and she listened. I don't care what he says, Petrov. Tell him I said it. Tell him if he has a problem with it, he can come up here and have the problem with me in person. Tell him I'll be waiting. A pause. Because I have new information, that's why. No, Petrov, I'm not discussing it on the phone. I'm telling you what to do and you're going to do it. Yes, tonight. Another pause. Good. Silence. Elena heard him exhale slowly. She heard a coffee cup set down on a counter. She heard the scrape of a chair. Then nothing. She came down the stairs. Roman was sitting at the kitchen island in the same shirt he'd worn yesterday, the sleeves rolled up, a mug of black coffee in front of him. He had not shaved. His hair was damp, like he had splashed water on his face in the sink. He looked up when she came in and neither of them said anything for a second. Is there coffee? Elena said. Yeah, on the stove. She went around the island. She poured a cup. She leaned her hip against the counter across from him and she drank it black, which she had never done before because 6 years of being a mom in a small town had taught her not to waste cream on herself. She's still asleep? He asked. She's going to sleep till 7 or 8. She's a good sleeper. Good, that's good. You slept? A little. On that porch? He half smiled. Couch. Mostly. Uh-huh. Silence. The coffee maker clicked off. Roman. Yes. What is this place? He looked up at her. I bought it 11 years ago, he said. Cash through a shell under a name that doesn't trace back. There's no staff, no housekeeper, no gardener. Victor has a key, and I have a key. And that's it. I came up here 3 or 4 times a year to think, to be somewhere quiet. I never brought anyone. You're the first person besides Victor who has ever been inside this house. She took that in. Why? She said. Why what? Why did you need somewhere quiet? He smiled without humor. Elena, I kill people for a living. Sometimes a man needs a weekend. She didn't laugh. He didn't expect her to. I thought you were always in the tower, she said. I thought the city was your quiet. The tower's not quiet. The tower it's a speaker. It amplifies everything. Everyone's watching all the time. Everyone's listening all the time. You can't sleep because someone's always thinking about you somewhere. Here, nobody's thinking about me. That's the whole point. She nodded slowly. What did you think about, she said, when you came up here? He didn't answer at first. You, he said finally. Mostly you. For 6 years. I came up here and I thought about you. And after the first year, I thought about her too. Elena looked at the floor. Roman, I'm not saying it to make you feel sorry for me. I know I don't get to make you feel sorry for me. I'm just answering your question. I wasn't going to. I wasn't going to tell you to stop. He looked up at her. Oh, he said. The moment stretched. Elena looked at the man across her counter, and she remembered with a kind of unwelcome clarity all the reasons she had married him in the first place. Not the money, not the power, not the tower, not the car, not the charity galas. The way, when he looked at her, he really looked at her. The way he listened when she told him about her day in a way no man had ever listened to her before. The way, when they were alone, he told her things he had never told another living person. And she had understood even then that she was the repository of a life he was not going to give to anyone else. He was looking at her that way now. She set her cup down on the counter, hard, to break it. Who were you on the phone with? She said. Nobody. Roman. A lieutenant in the city. His name is Petrov. He runs day to day when I'm not in the office. And you were telling him to do what? To fortify the gates of this property, bring up more men, to start quietly moving my people into positions around Dragov's operations in the city. To prepare. Prepare for what? He looked at her. For what happens next, Elena? Which is, I'm going to kill him. He said it the way another man might have said, I'm going to pick up milk. Elena had known him long enough to recognize the tone. This was not a threat. This was not bravado. This was Roman Varick stating, as a matter of calendar, an event that was going to occur. She closed her eyes. Don't say it like that. How would you like me to say it? Not in my kitchen. Not while our daughter is upstairs. This isn't your kitchen, Elena. This is mine. That's partly the problem. Don't do that. Don't play word games with me. You know what I mean. I know what you mean. I'm a librarian, Roman. I was a librarian. 28 hours ago, I was at work reshelving the kids section. I was going to go to a school auction on Saturday. I had frozen chicken thawing in my fridge. I was making chicken. I know. I am not a person who sits in a kitchen and has her ex-husband tell her calmly that he is going to murder a man so that she can go back to being a librarian. Elena, I'm not. I didn't ask you to be. You brought me here. You got in the car. You brought me here, Roman. There was a long, tight silence. He set his coffee down. He leaned his weight on his forearms. He looked at her. You're right, he said. I did. I didn't give you an alternative. I didn't sit in your living room and lay out options. I showed up and said, get in the car or die in the kitchen. I did that. I'll own it. And I'll do it again if I have to, because the alternative is unacceptable. But you're right. I brought you here. Elena put her hand over her mouth. She turned and looked out the window over the sink. There was a fine mist rising off the lake, the first pale light of morning behind it, the loon calling again far out somewhere. I don't know how to be here, she said behind her hand. I don't know how to be here with you. I know. I don't know how to explain to her what this place is. why we're here, why we're not going home, why Lucy can't come over, why she can't go to school, why she can't. Roman, she has a ballet recital on May 10th. She's been practicing since January. She's supposed to be a daisy. Her costume is in the hall closet. Her voice cracked on costume. Roman got up. He came around the island slowly so she would know he was coming, and he stopped about 3 feet away from her. I can't give you her recital back, he said quietly. I can't give you your house back. I can't give you 6 years back. But I can give you this. When it's done, I will buy that entire dance school. I will hire whatever teachers we need. I will set up a stage in this house if that's what it takes. She will be a daisy, Elena. I promise you, she will be a daisy. Elena laughed. It came out half a sob. That's insane, she said. Yeah, that's such a Roman thing to say. I know. You can't fix recitals with money, Roman. I know I can't, but I can buy you time to make her a new one, and that I can fix with money. She turned her face toward him. She was crying again in that quiet, leaking way that had nothing to do with the deep sobs of the night before. This was just grief moving through her like weather. He lifted his hand. He did not touch her. He held it up, an inch from her cheek, the way a man holds a hand near a flame to see if the flame will let him. She did not move. He lowered it. He did not touch her. I'm not going to, he said. I wanted to know if I could. I don't know, Roman. It's okay. I don't know. I haven't been touched in 6 years. By anyone. And the first hands I'm going to, I don't know if they're going to be yours. I don't know. It's okay, Elena. I wanted you to touch me yesterday, in the kitchen, when you looked at me, and I hated you for it. I know, I saw. She laughed again, wet. You always saw. I always saw. They stood there for a long moment, a foot apart, not touching. Then Elena wiped her face with the heel of her hand, and she said, I'm going to go up and check on her, and I'm going to take a shower. And then we are going to have breakfast, and you are going to explain to me in detail what the plan is. Because I'm not going to sit in this kitchen like a guest. Roman. If my daughter is here, I'm in it. I need to know what's happening. I need to know where the exits are. I need to know where the guns are. He tilted his head slightly. The guns. Don't look at me like that. If someone comes through the door of this house and you're not here, Roman, I'm not going to hide behind a couch. I'm going to put myself between them and her, and I'd rather do that with a gun than with a coffee pot. He studied her for a long beat. Yeah, he said. Okay, that's fair. After breakfast, I'll show you the safe. Good. Elena. What? I'm glad you're in it. Shut up, Roman. Yes, ma'am. She went upstairs. Victor came into the kitchen 10 minutes later. He had been on the porch, or in the trees, or wherever Victor went. Roman had never entirely understood Victor's relationship to empty spaces. Victor looked at Roman's face and said nothing and poured himself coffee. You heard that, Roman said. Heard enough. Tell me what you think. I think, Victor said, that you are a man in a great deal of trouble, and that at least 2 of the kinds of trouble are not the kind you can shoot your way out of. Great, thanks. You didn't pay me to be optimistic, boss. Roman rubbed his face. What did Petrov say? He pushed back. I had to tell him twice. He doesn't like me pulling men off the Halstead account. He doesn't like anything that cuts into next quarter, but he'll do it. He's good. Is he good? Victor hesitated, just for a second. He's good enough. Victor? He's good at his job, Roman. He's loyal. 15 years. You know him? I know him. He's solid. But he's one of my 2 guesses. That's all I'll say. If it's him, I'll know by the weekend. If it's him, I'll handle it. Roman looked at Victor for a long moment. He nodded. Okay. Boss, I need to say something else. Say it. This plan, this lake, this 6 to 8 weeks, we hunker down. I coordinate the war from here. I don't like it. It's too long. It's too contained. Dragov knows we disappeared last night. Dragov is a patient man, but he is not an infinitely patient man. If we sit up here for 6 weeks, he is going to find us. I don't know how. I don't know when, but he will. And when he does, we will be cornered with a 5-year-old in this house, and I will not be able to get her out. Victor, let me finish. Okay, What I want us to do is move. Every week. Different place, different state. I've got 4 safe houses set up and I can set up 4 more in a week. Arya is young enough that she can think of it as a vacation. Elena is smart enough to make her think that. We keep moving. We keep him guessing. We take the fight to him instead of waiting for him to come to us. You meet him on your terms, not on ours. That's how we win this. Sitting on a dock waiting for a sniper is not how we win this. Roman listened. He drank his coffee. He thought. Okay, he said. Okay? Okay. You're right. You set it up. We stay here 3 days. Then we move. Then we move again. I want the lake as our staging location, not our final location. We come back here between moves, we regroup, we go out again. If Drago finds this place, we abandon it. You and I go hunting. And Elena and the kid. Stay with 2 of our best, somewhere he'll never look. Victor nodded. That works. Set it up. Already started. Of course he had. Roman half smiled and set down his mug. And Victor? Yes, boss. The other guests? Victor looked at him. I'm not saying it yet, he said. Okay. But if it's that one, boss, if it's that one, it's going to change things. Define things. It's going to change who we trust. It's going to change the shape of this. You should prepare for the possibility that somebody you have known for a long time has been selling you slowly. Not all at once, over years, a piece at a time. You mean like, I don't want to say a name until I'm sure, boss, please. For once in your life, just let me do my job. Roman almost smiled. Okay, Victor. Thank you. Get me another coffee. Victor got him another coffee. Elena came down at 6:45 in clean clothes, her hair damp. Arya came down at 7:20 in her unicorn pajamas with Mr. Pepper under one arm and her hair pointing in every direction, and she stopped at the bottom of the stairs and blinked at the kitchen. There were pancakes on the island. There was syrup. There was bacon. There was a grown man who was a near stranger to her, standing at the stove in a rolled-up sleeve, flipping one more pancake with a spatula. Whoa, Arya said. Morning, kid, Roman said. Are we in a cabin? We're in a cabin. Are we still on our adventure? Yep, this is day 1 of the adventure. Arya took that in seriously. She climbed up onto a stool at the island. She put Mr. Pepper on the stool next to her. She accepted a small plate with 2 pancakes cut into triangles, and she said, Is there a lake? There's a lake. Is there a moose? I haven't seen a moose yet, but I've seen deer, and I've seen an otter, and I've seen a bald eagle one time. That's better than a moose. Is it? Moose have like huge nostrils, Roman. Huge, big, disgusting nostrils. I saw one in a book. I'll keep that in mind. Can I go see the lake after breakfast? Elena from the doorway said, With Mama and with Roman. We'll all go together. Okay. Arya ate her pancakes. She dripped syrup on the butcher block. She kicked her heels against the stool. Roman flipped another pancake and slid it onto a plate and set it in front of Elena. I'm not hungry, Elena said quietly. Eat anyway, he said. Please. She ate. Mr. Pepper sat on the stool and supervised. Outside, the mist burned slowly off the water, and the first real light came up over the tree line. And somewhere far away down a mountain road, a black sedan with no front plates pulled up to an empty yellow house, and 4 men got out and found, for the second time in 12 hours, nothing at all. Mikhail Dragov, in an office in a city 2 states away, received the call at 9:12 a.m. He listened. He did not interrupt. When the man on the other end was finished, Mikhail Dragov set the phone down on his desk, and he looked at the gray sky outside his window for a long time without blinking. Then he picked up the phone again, and he made a call of his own, to a number that rang inside Roman Varek's organization, a number he had been quietly calling for 4 years. The phone that rang inside Roman Varek's organization rang on the belt of a man named Daniil Petrov in a corner office on the 28th floor of the Varek Tower on a gray morning in Blackwater City. Petrov did not answer it in the office. He stood up, closed his laptop, told his secretary he was going down to the parking garage to make a call, and took the service elevator to level P3, where there were no cameras because the cameras on P3 had been broken for 18 months and nobody had ever gotten around to fixing them. That had been Petrov's idea. 2 years ago. It had not at the time felt like the beginning of anything. In the dim concrete between his Mercedes and a support column, Petrov answered. Da. You have a problem, Daniil. Petrov closed his eyes. I know I have a problem. Your problem ran last night with his wife, and with a child I did not know existed. I didn't know either. You didn't know. Mikhail, I swear to you, on my mother's grave, there was no child in any file. There was nothing. Victor kept it somewhere I couldn't reach. And yet here we are. Here we are. There was a long silence. Somewhere on P3, a car alarm went off and then shut up. Petrov could hear the other man breathing. Mikhail Dragov had a particular way of breathing on phones. Slow, thoughtful, audible, like he wanted you to know he was still there and still deciding. Daniil. Yes. I have been patient with you. I know. 4 years of patience, 4 years of a little here, a little there, shipping schedules, informant list, bank routing. You have been a very profitable friend, and I have been very quiet about it. I have not asked you for things that would get you killed. Yes? Yes. Today I am going to ask you for something that will get you killed if you do it wrong. Petrov did not answer. His mouth had gone dry. I need the lake house, Mikhail said. I don't know where the lake house is. Then you have until sundown tomorrow to find out. Mikhail, sundown. Tomorrow. Or I send an envelope to Viktor Kozlov with 4 years of receipts and let him explain them to your boss. Are we clear? We're clear. Good. The line went dead. Petrov stood in the garage for a long moment with the phone still pressed to his ear. He had a wife in Sheepshead Bay. He had a son at Fordham. He had a 10-year-old daughter who had just gotten braces and was, in his wallet, smiling with a mouthful of silver. He was 44 years old, and he had not, until this moment, fully understood that there was no more shallow end to the thing he had walked into 4 years ago. Every step from here was deep water. He put the phone in his pocket. He went upstairs. He smiled at his secretary. He asked her to please bring him a coffee. No sugar, thank you, Irina. Then he sat down at his desk and he began, very carefully, to make a short list of people inside the organization who would know where Roman Varek went when he needed to be somewhere quiet. At the lake, it was almost 10 in the morning. Arya had changed out of her pajamas and into leggings and a sweatshirt that said Cedar Hollow Summer Camp, 2024 in flaking iron-on letters. And she was down at the edge of the dock in a pair of rubber boots she had found in the mudroom that were about 5 sizes too big, throwing pebbles into the lake. Each pebble produced a satisfying plunk. Each plunk produced from Arya a small approving noise, like a scientist confirming a theory. Elena sat on the end of the dock with her knees pulled up and her coffee warming her hands. The mist had burned off. The sun was out. The water was so still you could see every pine tree on the opposite shore, doubled and silver. It was so beautiful it was almost obscene, and Elena was having a hard time looking at it. Roman came down the gravel path behind her. She heard him before she saw him. He sat down a careful 3 feet away, his own mug in his hand, and he did not say anything for a while. I showed Victor the safe, he said finally. He'll walk you through it after lunch. It's in the pantry, behind the canned tomatoes. 3-digit code. Your birthday. She looked at him. You set my birthday as the code to the gun safe in your private lake house. I set it 11 years ago. Oh. He shrugged slightly. I don't know why. I just did. She turned her face back out to the water. Plunk, Arya announced from the other end of the dock. A pebble sailed, missed the water, hit a rock, ricocheted, and hit the water. That counts. That counts, baby. Mr. Pepper says it counts. Mr. Pepper is a very wise rabbit. Roman laughed quietly. Elena glanced at him again. He was watching Arya with an expression she could not read and did not want to read. Not because it was foreign, but because it wasn't. She had seen that look before. She had seen it on his face the day she'd told him she wanted to get a dog, years ago, and he had said, okay, and 2 days later there had been a rescued German Shepherd in their kitchen with a red bow on its collar. The dog had died the year before she left. She had never told him. Probably he had always known. Roman. Yeah. Did the dog? He glanced at her. Bella. Yeah. Yeah, I know. 2 years ago, right? The the vet in Cedar Hollow. I got the call the day she was put down. You got the call. Victor's man. We we had it wired that anything involving you, medical bills, 911, anything came to me within an hour. It wasn't it wasn't for spying. It was for triage in case I had to move. When the vet called you, someone in my organization heard the call, and someone told Victor, and Victor told me. I sat in the tower that afternoon, and I don't know. I sat there. I thought about her. I thought about how you used to complain about her hair on the couch. That's all. She was a good dog. She was an excellent dog. They sat with that for a minute. Mama, watch this. Arya had both hands full of pebbles. She hurled them into the lake all at once, like a tiny artillery barrage. Water sprayed. She shrieked with laughter. Elena laughed back. Automatic. A mother's laugh. Good throw, baby. Did you see it? I saw it. Roman, did you see it? I saw it, kid. That was a good one. Mr. Pepper didn't see it. He was looking at a bug. Tell him to pay attention next time. I can't tell him. He's a rabbit. Oh, right. Sorry. It's okay. She went back to her pebbles. For a moment there on the dock, Elena felt something she had not felt in 6 years. Not happiness exactly. Something quieter. A kind of horrible rightness. The rightness of seeing her daughter on a dock with her father, even if her daughter did not know he was her father, even if her father had a gun on his hip and a war coming for him down a mountain road. The rightness of 3 people in the right geometry for the first time in 6 years. It felt, in Elena's chest, like a window opening inside a house that had been closed up for so long the hinges creaked. She hated that feeling. She hated it because she knew with perfect adult clarity that it was a trap, that she was never going to get to keep this, that she had made Roman promise last night that he would not tell their daughter he was her father, and that she herself had just, in the last 10 seconds, briefly imagined a life in which he did. She closed her eyes. She pressed the warm mug against her forehead. You okay? Roman said quietly. No? Okay. I don't want to talk about it, Roman. Okay? He didn't say anything else. He just sat there 3 feet from her, drinking his coffee, and watched their kid throw rocks into a lake. Victor came down the path at 11:15. He had the particular walk that meant something had changed, a walk Elena did not recognize yet, but Roman recognized from 30 feet away. Boss? Yeah. Need a word. Roman stood up. Elena. Go, she said, not looking at him. Go. He went. They walked up the dock, past Arya. Victor bent down and solemnly accepted a pebble she offered him, examined it, pronounced it a very good rock, and handed it back, and into the house. Roman closed the kitchen door behind them. Talk. Petrov made a call this morning from P3. P3 has no cameras. P3 has no cameras we officially installed. I had an off-books unit put in 8 months ago. 1 camera pinhole. You didn't know. Roman looked at his friend. You didn't tell me. No. Why? Because if I told you then, you would have asked why. And I would have had to say my 2 guesses out loud, and neither of us was ready. Roman rubbed his mouth. Okay. The call was 9 minutes, outgoing, to a burner. The burner pinged off a tower 2 blocks from Dragov's Atlantic Avenue office. I don't have audio. I don't need audio. It was Dragov. You're sure? I'm sure. How long? The camera? 8 months. The relationship? I can go back 4 years in wire transfers, small ones, dummy accounts. A flat in Tribeca Petrov doesn't live in, where his mistress does. He has a mistress. He has a mistress, and he has 2 kids, and he has a daughter with braces. He has cost to him. Dragov has been very patient and very generous for a very long time. Roman stared at a spot on the kitchen floor. 15 years. I know. I was in his wedding, Victor. I know. My godson is his son. I know, boss. Anton is 8 years old. Anton calls me Diadya. What am I supposed to do with Anton? That's not for now. Victor. That's not for now, Roman. Now we figure out what Petrov did this morning and what he's going to do by tonight. That's all that matters in this exact minute. Roman closed his eyes. What did he do this morning? He went back upstairs, got coffee. He's been in his office since. He has pulled 3 files so far. One of them is the Halstead account, which you know about. One of them is the staffing schedule for the Emerald property, which is normal. One of them is the maintenance log for the northern properties. Northern properties. Yes. This house is on that log. This house is on that log. Roman opened his eyes. So he's looking. He's looking. He'll find it. Probably by end of day. At that point, he has 2 choices. He gives Dragov the address. Or he doesn't, and Dragov burns him. He'll give the address. He'll give the address. He'll do it because he has a 10-year-old with braces and a mistress and a life he's not willing to lose. That is what people like Petrov do. You know this. I know this. I am not judging him. I'm telling you what he's going to do. Roman stood at the kitchen island. He put both hands flat on the butcher block. He looked out the window. He could see Elena on the dock. He could see Arya crouched beside her, handing her a pebble. Okay, he said quietly. Okay. We move tonight. Pack up. We were going to stay 3 days. We stay 1. Where's our next spot? A place in the Berkshires. I can have it ready in 6 hours. Do it. Elena? I'll tell her. And Petrov. Leave him. Victor frowned. Leave him. Leave him. For now. If we move on him, Dragov knows in an hour we know. We keep Petrov in place. We let him tell Dragov where the lake house is. By the time Dragov's men get here, we'll be 200 miles away, and we'll have what Petrov is on camera telling him, which is going to be worth 10 informants to me later. Let him hang himself. Then we cut him down. Victor considered this. He nodded slowly. That's cold, boss. Yeah. It's also smart. Yeah. And Anton. Anton's 8. I know how old Anton is, Roman. Roman did not answer. He picked up his coffee. He drank the last of it. He set the mug in the sink, carefully, exactly centered, because if he did not do something exact with his hands right now, he was going to break something. I'm not his father, Victor, he said without turning around. I can't raise him. I can't take him into this house. I can't make him my kid. I have a kid. She's on that dock. That's my kid. I know, but I'll make sure he and his mother are taken care of. After, quietly. Understood. Now get out of my kitchen. I have to go tell the mother of my child that we're leaving the only peaceful morning she's had in 6 years. Victor went. Roman stood alone in the kitchen for a long moment. Then he walked out, down the gravel path and down the dock, and he crouched beside Elena with his hands on his knees, and he said quietly, so Arya would not hear, "We have to move tonight." Elena went very still. Tonight, after dark. Victor's arranging it now. Roman, the city. There's a leak. I can't say more yet. It's being handled. We have a place already set up in the Berkshires, 2 bedrooms, a yard, a garage. It's not as pretty as this, but it's clean and it's ours, and she'll think the adventure just keeps going. Elena looked down at Arya, at her daughter squatting happily in rubber boots, humming something under her breath, her hair sticking out from under a borrowed ball cap. I hate you, Elena said very softly. I know. I hated you yesterday, and I hate you today, and I'm probably going to hate you tomorrow. I know. I want you to know that. I do. I know it. She nodded. She pressed her hand against her mouth for a second. Okay, she said. Tonight. Thank you, Elena. Go away, Roman. He went. Elena sat on the dock with her daughter, and she finished her coffee, which had gone cold, and she watched a dragonfly land on her knee and fly away again, and she did not cry, and she did not cry, and she did not cry. Bolsheb. They left the lake at 8:40 p.m. Arya was asleep in the back seat by the time they hit the interstate. Elena was in the front this time. Roman had asked, quietly, if she would rather sit up front, and she had said yes without looking at him. Victor drove. There was a second SUV behind them with 2 of Roman's men, both of whom Elena had been introduced to briefly at the house. A man named Myron, who was built like a refrigerator and had extraordinarily gentle eyes, and a younger man named Dmitri who had not spoken above a whisper, and who Roman had quietly informed her later, had been in the special forces of a country whose name she should probably not repeat. Both of them, Roman had said, would die for her and Arya. She had believed him. She had not decided yet whether that made her feel safer. The drive to the Berkshires took 5.5 hours. For the first hour, nobody spoke. Victor had the radio off. The road hummed under the tires. Every so often, a pair of headlights came up the other side of the divide and passed them in a long white wash. Elena watched them pass, and she thought, with a kind of distant wonder, that each pair of headlights had a whole life behind the wheel of it. Somebody going home, somebody leaving someone, somebody not yet understanding what the day had cost them. She had joined those people 6 years ago, under a set of headlights exactly like these, on a night exactly like this one. She was still one of them. She was always going to be one of them. Elena. She looked over. Roman was looking at his phone. His face in the blue light was unreadable. I need to tell you something. Okay. It's about how Dragov found you. She waited. It was someone inside my organization, Roman said quietly. A lieutenant, Petrov. 15 years with me. I was in his wedding. He has a son. I'm the son's godfather. Jesus. Yeah. And for 4 years, a little at a time, shipping, informants, bank stuff. He told Dragov you existed, the fact of you, not where. Victor and I kept the where hidden even from our own people. But once Dragov had the fact of you, he put Orlov on the where, and that's what took 6 months. Elena stared straight ahead at the road. 6 years, she said. For 6 years I thought I'd made some mistake. I checked into the wrong hospital once. 18 months in, Arya had an ear infection. I took her in under a name I hadn't used before. I was so careful, but I kept thinking, what if I missed a form? What if I checked a wrong box? What if I did this? You didn't. I know now. Elena, you didn't do anything. You were perfect. For 6 years you were perfect. It was always going to be him, or somebody like him. Someone inside your house. Yes. Your house was never safe, Roman. He didn't answer. Your house was never safe, she said again, quieter. You built a house out of men you could not trust, and you put your wife in it, and you thought the walls were the walls. The walls weren't the walls. The men were the walls. Elena, I know. I know you know. I'm not trying to make you feel bad. You are. A little. It's fine. A little. Yeah. She let out a breath. She rested her head against the cold glass of the window. Outside, a green sign with white letters slid past. Massachusetts, 74 miles. What are you going to do to him? She said. I'm not going to do anything yet. Right now he's more useful to me alive and lying to Dragov than he would be dead. Once the line stops being useful, I'll handle it. Handle. Elena. Don't say handle, Roman. You mean you're going to kill him. Say you're going to kill him. I'm going to kill him. Thank you. You're welcome. She almost laughed. She almost laughed. The absurdity of this conversation, of thanking her ex-husband for being honest about the fact that he was going to murder a man who had betrayed him, hit her somewhere between the ribs and the lung, and she wanted to laugh and she wanted to cry. And she did neither, because her daughter was sleeping in the back seat and certain reactions were no longer available to her in this life. His son, she said. What about his son? His son's going to lose his father. Yes? Roman. Yeah. The world you live in, the world you made. There's a little boy somewhere, right now, who doesn't know his father is about to die. And you know his name. And you're his godfather. And you're going to be the reason. Yes. You're okay with that? No. But you're going to do it. Yes. She nodded slowly. She stared at her own reflection in the window. Arya will never know you, Roman. I know. She will never know. Not because I'm cruel. Because you live in a world where little boys lose their fathers, and you're okay with it because it's necessary. I am not bringing her into a world where necessary things kill fathers. I am not. I know, Elena. Do you? I know. Silence. The road hummed. Arya, in the back, sighed in her sleep and turned her face against the car seat. I used to think, Roman said very quietly, that I could split myself. That there was a part of me that was the business and a part of me that was your husband, and I could keep them in 2 rooms that didn't talk to each other. I used to tell myself that every night. I believed it until the night I signed those papers. Then I I knew. I knew there was only ever one room. It was always one room. I was the one room. The business ate the husband. The husband ate the father. I'm sorry. She closed her eyes. Don't say sorry to me in a car, Roman. Where should I say it? Nowhere, just don't say it. I don't want it. Okay. I don't want it because if I take it, I have to forgive you. And I don't know how to forgive you. And I don't want to find out whether I can. Do you understand? This is a thing I am protecting. I am protecting my ability to not forgive you, because if I forgive you, I don't know who I am. 6 years, Roman, I built a whole person out of not forgiving you. You don't get to walk in and take that too. He was quiet for a long time. Okay, he said at last. Okay, Elena. She wiped her face with the back of her hand. She turned her forehead against the cold window. She did not look at him for the rest of the drive. The safe house in the Berkshires was a 2-story gray farmhouse set back from a county road, with a gravel drive and a long yard that backed up onto 30 acres of oak forest, a satellite dish on the roof, a security system that Victor's men had installed the week before, a kitchen that had been stocked overnight with food for a family of 3, milk, eggs, cereal, yogurt, apples, bread, peanut butter, a box of frozen waffles with a cartoon tiger on it. The waffles were the detail that broke Elena. Victor had thought of the waffles. They arrived a little after 2 in the morning. Arya did not wake up when Roman carried her in. Elena followed. Miran and Dmitri took the ground floor bedrooms. Victor took a room next to the stairs. Roman and Elena and Arya were upstairs, in a corner set of rooms with a shared bathroom. Elena put Arya in a bed. She stood over her for a long time. Then she went to her own room, which was across the hall from Roman's, and she closed the door. And she sat down on the edge of the bed with her face in her hands. She heard Roman's door close across the hall a moment later. She heard distinctly the soft click of his lock. She understood it. He was locking himself away from her. He was giving her the gift of a door she did not have to defend. It was, in its own way, the most considerate thing he had ever done for her, and she hated him for it. And she lay down on top of the quilt in her clothes, and she slept for 4 hours, hard and dreamless. They stayed at the Berkshires house for 9 days. In a way that Elena had not expected, those 9 days were the strangest days of her adult life. Not because they were bad, but because, in small, unwilling pieces, they were good. Arya loved the house. She loved the big yard. She loved the oak forest, which Victor let her wander in for short supervised hours, always with Myron walking behind her at a respectful distance, pretending not to be a bodyguard. She loved the cartoon tiger waffles. She loved especially that there was a basket in the living room full of mismatched art supplies, crayons, construction paper, safety scissors, that Victor had picked up at a Walmart 2 counties over. She drew pictures at the kitchen island every morning, and she gave one to each adult in the house as a solemn formal gift. She gave Victor a picture of a house. She gave Myron a picture of a bear. She gave Dmitri a picture of a fish. She gave Roman, on the 3rd day, a picture of 3 people holding hands under a big yellow sun. Who are they? Roman asked. That's me, that's Mama, that's you. He swallowed. That's nice, kid. I drew you taller because you are taller. Accurate. Do you like it? I love it. You can put it on your wall. I will. He put it on his wall. On the wall of the bedroom he locked at night so he would not do anything stupid. He taped it up with a piece of masking tape from the kitchen, at eye level, and every night he sat on the edge of that bed and he looked at it and he did not cry, because Roman Varick did not cry, but something happened inside his chest that was not crying but was not nothing either. Elena saw the picture on his wall the 2nd night, through the half-open door. She stood in the hall in her bare feet for a full minute looking at it. Then she went into her own room and closed her own door and did not sleep for a long time. On the 6th day, she found him in the kitchen at 3 in the morning. She had come down for water. She had not expected to find anyone, but Roman was there, in a t-shirt and sweatpants, standing at the dark window over the sink. There was a gun on the counter next to him. He had not turned on any lights. You should sleep, she said from the doorway. I don't sleep much anymore. Since when? Since you left. She did not answer. He walked in. She got a glass. She filled it at the tap. She stood next to him, not quite touching, and she drank the water slowly. Is everything okay? Everything is fine. I'm just... I'm just watching. Watching what? Nothing. The driveway, the trees, nothing. She looked at him in the half-light. His face had aged in these 9 days. Not much, just enough. The lines around his mouth a little deeper, the shadows under his eyes set in. Roman. Yeah. Are you going to be okay? He looked at her. Am I going to be okay? Yes. Elena, nobody's asked me that in, I don't know, a long time. I know. I don't know how to answer it. Yes or no, Roman. It's a two-answer question. He almost smiled. He looked back at the window. I'm going to do what I have to do, he said, and then I'm going to step back, out of your life, out of hers, and I'm going to find a way to live with what I've done. I don't know if that counts as okay. Probably not in the way you mean, but I've been not okay for 6 years and I've survived. So, that's not an answer. I know. She looked down at the glass in her hand. I want you to try, she said quietly. Try what? To be okay. After. I don't want to know about you. I don't want letters. I don't want birthday cards for her. I don't want anything, but in the abstract, in the world. I want you to be okay, Roman. He looked at her for a long moment. His eyes were very dark. Okay, Elena. Okay. She set her glass in the sink. She walked out. She did not touch him. She went upstairs, and she got into bed, and she did not sleep. And somewhere in the dark of the kitchen behind her, Roman Varick stood at the window with his hand flat against the cold glass, and he watched the driveway for another 3 hours. On the 9th day, Victor came upstairs at 6:15 in the morning and knocked on Roman's door. Boss. Roman opened it immediately. He was already dressed. He had not slept. Yeah. Petrov gave them the address last night, 11:46 p.m. They hit the lake house at 4:20 this morning. 8 men, 2 vehicles. They breached the main house, the boathouse, the dock. Nothing. They're still on site. They're photographing everything. Good. They know we were there. They were always going to know we were there. The point was that we weren't there anymore. Yes. And Petrov. Petrov called Dragov at 6:02 a.m. from his home phone. He told him the house was empty. Dragov asked him if he had a second location. Petrov said no. Dragov said, and I'm quoting because it's important, then find one or we find yours. That's the tape. Petrov has a second location he can give them. He doesn't. He doesn't know where we are. He doesn't know about the Berkshires. Only you, me, and the 2 men in this house know about the Berkshires. Petrov's going to run out of things to give Dragov. Fast. Roman nodded slowly. Then it's time. Boss? Victor, it's time. You said we wait. I said we wait until Petrov stopped being useful. Petrov just stopped being useful. Once Dragov realizes Petrov doesn't have a second location, Dragov is going to cut him loose. Petrov knows that. Petrov's about to get desperate. A desperate Petrov is unpredictable, and we can't afford unpredictable right now. Agreed. So we flip it. I go back to the city. I give Petrov a different second location, one I've made up. I make him think he stumbled onto it. He passes it to Dragov. Dragov walks his men into whatever I've set up there. We take the whole top of his organization in a single night, and then I go for Mikhail himself. You go. I go. Alone. Not alone, but not with you. You stay with them. Boss, Victor, listen to me. If something happens to me, Elena and Arya need you. Not Miron, not Dmitri, you. If something goes wrong in the city, the 2 of you get them on a plane to the second set of documents I had made for them. They're in the safe, lower shelf, brown envelope, and you take them somewhere I cannot help you from, and I do not ever know where. Do you understand me? Boss? Do you understand me? Victor was quiet for a long moment. I understand you. Swear. I swear. Thank you. They stood there in the hallway in the dim upstairs light. From down the hall came the small, unmistakable sound of a 5-year-old talking to a stuffed rabbit in her sleep. When do we move? Victor said quietly. Tonight. I leave tonight. You stay with them here. If I'm not back in 72 hours, you take them and you go. Okay. Get me a flight. Boss, don't fly commercial. I wasn't going to. Okay? Victor turned to go. Halfway down the hall, he stopped. Roman. Yeah. What are you going to tell her? Roman looked at the closed door of Elena's room. The truth, he said. She's earned the truth. He waited until 7 when he knew she was awake, and he knocked on her door. Elena opened it in a t-shirt and sweatpants, her hair in a sloppy knot, her eyes already wary. What? Can I come in? She looked at him for a long second, then she stepped back. He came in. He closed the door behind him. He did not sit down. I'm leaving tonight. Her face did something complicated. It did about 4 things in a second and a half, and then it did the thing Elena had spent 6 years perfecting, which was the face of a woman who had decided to take a piece of news in a way that was not going to cost her the whole day. Okay? I need to go back to the city. Finish this. I can't do it from here. I'm taking Dmitri with me. Victor and Myron are staying with you. Okay. I'll be gone 72 hours. Maybe less. Maybe more. Maybe never. Elena. That's a real option, Roman. Don't stand there and leave it off the list because it's rude. It's an option. How big of one? Not small. She closed her eyes. Okay. If I don't come back, Victor has instructions. You and Arya disappear again. New papers, new country. I'll have set aside enough money that you never have to worry about money in your life. That's not what I'm worried about. I know it's not. Roman. Yes. She opened her eyes. They were wet, but she was not crying. If you don't come back, if she grows up without knowing you, what do I tell her? What do I tell her about you, Roman? When she is 15, when she is 25, what's the story about her father? He thought about it. He really did. He took his time. He looked at a spot on the rug between them for a long time. Tell her, he said finally, that her father was a man who made a lot of bad decisions, and 1 or 2 good ones, and that the best one he ever made was going back for her, even if it was too late, even if it didn't work. Tell her he went back, that's all. She doesn't need the rest. She'll ask what he did for a living. Tell her he was in shipping. Roman. Tell her whatever you want, Elena. I'm not there to argue. She pressed both hands over her face for a second. Okay. Elena. What? Before I go. She lowered her hands. Can you what? Can I say goodbye to her? Properly. Just once. As whatever she thinks I am. I won't tell her. I promised. But I want her to know I said goodbye. I don't want to just disappear on her. Elena looked at him for a very long time. Then she nodded. Just once. Okay. Thank you. Don't thank me, Roman. Okay. He stood there for another moment, a foot away from her, not touching her. His chain had slipped out of his t-shirt at some point in the conversation. Elena could see her own wedding ring hanging from it against his sternum, against his skin, warm. Roman. Yeah. That's still there. He looked down. He picked up the ring between 2 fingers. He looked at it. He looked at her. Yeah. For 6 years. For 6 years. You're a son of a bitch, Roman Varick. I know. Come back. I'll try. No, come back. Don't try. Come back. I'm telling you that. He swallowed. Okay, Elena. She turned away. She walked to the window. She put her forehead against the cold glass and she did not move. And after a long moment, he walked out of her room and closed the door quietly behind him. And she stood at that window until the sun was all the way up over the oak forest, and her coffee downstairs had gone cold, and her daughter was awake and calling for her. And then, and only then, she straightened up and she wiped her face and she went to start the day. He said goodbye to her at dusk. Arya was in the living room, flat on her stomach on the rug, drawing with a purple crayon on a piece of construction paper, Mr. Pepper propped against her elbow like a small critical supervisor. The sun was low and coppery through the tall west windows, laying long stripes of light across the hardwood. Roman came in from the kitchen in his coat. Elena came behind him and stood in the doorway with her arms folded across her chest, the way a person stands when they are trying to keep their own body from flying apart. Kid, Roman said. Arya looked up. She had a smudge of purple on her nose. Yeah? I gotta go for a little bit. Where? Work thing. Back in the city. For how long? Couple of days, maybe 3. Are you coming back? He didn't answer right away. She had asked it like a 5-year-old asks any question, with no particular weight, no premonition, just a small fact she was trying to place. But Roman was 44 years old, and he had learned over many long nights that sometimes small children know things that the adults around them do not say out loud. I'm going to do my very best, he said. Why does it take 3 days? It just does. She accepted that. She looked back down at her paper. Then she sat up on her knees, seriously, and she picked up Mr. Pepper and she held him out at arm's length toward Roman. Take him. Kid, take him. He kept you company at dinner that one time. He can go to work with you. Arya, baby, that's your guy. I have Mama. You don't have anybody. Take him. Elena turned her face away. Roman looked at her. She did not look back. He crouched down on the rug. He took Mr. Pepper in both hands, very carefully, the way a man handles something a lot more expensive than it looks. You're sure? You have to give him back. When you come back, he's borrowed. Borrowed. Yeah. I'll bring him back, kid. Okay. I promise. Okay. He stood up. Mr. Pepper was approximately the size of a loaf of bread and smelled faintly like grape juice and a little girl's hair. Roman held him down at his side like a man holding a briefcase full of something dangerous. Be good for your mom. I'm always good. That's a lie. Mostly good. Closer to true. Bye, Romanton. About Roman. Bye, Kim. Kid. He looked at Elena across the room. She nodded, very small. He walked past her without touching her. At the front door, Victor handed him a duffel and a key ring and did not say anything. Dmitri was already in the driver's seat of a black sedan in the gravel drive. The sun was behind the ridge now. Everything had gone blue. Roman got in. The door shut. The tires turned on the gravel, and Elena stood in the doorway of the gray Berkshire's farmhouse with her hand pressed over her mouth, and she watched the taillights get small, and she did not call after him, and she did not cry. Upstairs, in her back pocket, her daughter's crayon drawing rode against her hip. Arya had made her another one that afternoon. 3 people holding hands under a yellow sun. Elena had not yet decided what to do with it. The drive to Blackwater City took 4 hours. Roman did not talk. Dmitri did not expect him to. Somewhere on the interstate, Roman set Mr. Pepper on the dashboard, and Dmitri glanced at him, and glanced at the rabbit, and glanced back at the road, and said nothing. He was a good driver. He was a better silence. By the time they reached the outer ring of the city, it was almost midnight. Roman had the whole evening laid out in his head. He was not going to the tower. The tower was the first place Petrov would look, and Petrov was the first pawn he needed to move. He was going instead to a garage on the south side that was owned by a corporation 3 levels removed from anything with his name on it. Victor had called ahead. 4 of Roman's best men would be there when he arrived. Men Petrov did not know about. Men who for 2 years had been kept off the books on purpose against exactly this kind of day. The plan was almost embarrassing in its simplicity. Roman was going to go visit Petrov at his mistress's apartment in Tribeca at 1 in the morning. He was going to sit in the kitchen. He was going to tell Petrov calmly that he knew everything. He was going to let Petrov beg. He was going to let Petrov cry. He was going to let Petrov offer him his wife, his son, his money, his life. And then Roman was going to give Petrov a single, precise gift, a new piece of information, a location, a second lake house that did not exist up near the Canadian border, which Petrov would pass to Dragov within the hour, because Petrov would believe that passing it was the only way to keep his own family alive. Dragov would take his best men to that second location. There was no house there. There was only a fish-packing warehouse with 1 road in, 1 road out, and 6 of Roman's men in elevated positions in the woods. It would be finished there, or it would be finished by then. That was the plan. It did not survive 30 minutes in Blackwater City. The garage on the south side had always had a back entrance off an alley, a reinforced steel roll-up door that could only be opened from the inside. When Dmitri pulled up to it at 12:45, the door was up. The lights inside were off. Dmitri's foot hit the brake. His hand went to his waistband. Back out. Roman said quietly. Boss? Back out, Dmitri. Dmitri threw it into reverse. The sedan lurched back down the alley, tires scraping. At the mouth of the alley, a black panel van had just rolled into position, blocking them. Dmitri hit the gas the other way. He tried to cut left, up over the curb, through the narrow gap between a dumpster and the brick wall. He almost made it. 3 men came out of the side door of the garage from the dark, and the first shot took out the sedan's front tire, and the second took out the rear, and the car bucked and slewed and hit the dumpster at an angle that shattered the passenger mirror and killed the engine. Dmitri got his pistol up. He was good. He was very good. He took the first man in the chest before the man could fire again. He was turning to the second when a round came through the driver's side window and hit him in the throat, and he slumped sideways into Roman's lap with a small apologetic sound and died. Roman did not draw his own gun. He understood, with the absolute clarity of a man who had done this to other people many times, that he was already done. 4 men in tactical gear were on the car. 2 had the doors, 2 had the windows. He had his hands up before anyone shouted for them. Dmitri was dead on his legs. Mr. Pepper had fallen off the dashboard and was on the floor mat next to Roman's shoe. Someone yanked his door open. Someone hit him in the face with the butt of a rifle. The world tilted. Blood came down into his eye, warm and familiar. He felt a man's knee in his back. He felt zip ties around his wrists, tight enough to cut. He felt the particular stale polyester of a black hood being pulled down over his head. Easy, a voice said, close to his ear. Russian accent, patient, pleased. Easy, Mr. Varek. We've been waiting for you. Mr. Dragov sends his regards. He picked up the rabbit, Roman thought, dimly, through the pane and the hood. Someone picked up the rabbit. Don't forget the rabbit. But nobody did. As they dragged him toward the panel van, Mr. Pepper stayed in the footwell of a dead man's sedan, one ear up, glassy eyes fixed on nothing, and the man who was supposed to bring him home was driven away into the dark. In the Berkshires at 2 a.m, the phone rang. Victor picked up on the first ring. He was in the kitchen. He had not been to bed. He listened for about 11 seconds. He closed his eyes. He said, "Understood," and he hung up. He stood in the dark kitchen for a long moment. Then he climbed the stairs. He knocked on Elena's door. She opened it in the same t-shirt she'd worn at dinner. She looked at his face for half a second, and her knees did a thing. "No," she said. "Elena." "No, no, no. He's alive." She stopped. "What?" "He's alive. They have him. Dragov has him. Not dead. Not yet. That's what the message is. The message is a ransom. They took him. They were waiting for him at the garage. Petrov sold it. I didn't see it. I should have seen it. Petrov gave up our backup location because Dragov squeezed him harder than I thought he could. We walked into it, Elena. I walked him into it." She leaned against the doorframe. "What do they want?" "You." "Me. They want you. That's the message. You for him. Tomorrow night. Old pier at the mouth of the river, 11 p.m. You walk on alone. No one else. No weapons. No tricks. If anything looks wrong, they kill him, and they dump the body in the water, and they come here anyway." He said, he made it very clear, he knows about the kid. He said that out loud. So he's not bluffing on location. He doesn't know about the Berkshires yet, or he would have said it, but he knows there's a child. He knows everything Petrov knew, which is more than I thought. Elena put her hand on her chest. She could feel her own heart through her shirt. She sat down on the edge of the bed because her legs did not seem to be hers anymore. "Victor." "Yeah." He said, "Walk on alone." "Yes." "And I walk on alone or Arya dies." That's the way he means it. That's what he has not said, but that's what he means. "Tomorrow night." "Tomorrow night." She was quiet for a long time. She rubbed her hands up and down her thighs, hard, as if trying to push feeling back into her legs. Somewhere down the hall, Arya made a small sleep noise. Elena heard it the way a dog hears something in another room. "Victor?" "Yeah." "If I don't go?" "Then they torture him and kill him, and they come here next. Probably inside a week. Maybe less. Maybe they already have people looking. If I go, then they have both of you, and then they come here." She looked up at him. So it's the same. No. No? If you go, if we go, I have a plan. You have a plan. I have a plan. Victor. Elena, listen to me. I'm listening. Roman sent me back here with instructions. If he got caught, if something went wrong, he wanted me to take you and Arya and run. I was going to do that. I was packing. You understand? I was already packing. Okay. But, he paused. The instructions assumed Dragov wouldn't know to ask for you. Now he's asked. Now the math is different. If I run with you, they find you eventually. Maybe in a year, maybe in 5. You raise her looking over your shoulder forever, and Roman dies tonight. Yes. So I want to propose something else. I want to propose the other plan, the one I was going to suggest to Roman in 2 weeks if we couldn't find Dragov. I want to go to him myself, tomorrow night, on the pier. I will walk on instead of you. She stared at him. He'll kill you on sight. He might, but he might not. I'm Roman's second. I have been for 21 years. I know where the bodies are. I know account numbers. I know names. Dragov knows that. Dragov wants that more than he wants you, Elena. He just doesn't know it yet. If I walk on that pier and I offer him what I know, all of what I know, in exchange for Roman, I can keep both of you out of it. It becomes a business deal instead of a vendetta. Victor, let me finish. He'll take what you give him and then he'll kill you anyway. Probably. Probably. Elena, I have been Roman's second since I was 17 years old. I have been his friend since I was 12. I do not have a wife. I do not have a child. I have no one. You have Arya. Roman. Roman has Arya, whether he knows it or not. You both have someone. I have Roman. If I trade my life for his, that's the trade I would make on any other day of the week for free. This is not a hard decision for me. She had her hand over her mouth again. Victor, also, I am not planning to walk onto that pier and die politely, Elena. I am planning to walk onto that pier with Myron a mile off, and 2 men you have not met on a rooftop with rifles, and I am planning to get Roman off that pier alive. And if I also get off it, great. If not, Myron drives you and Arya to an airfield I have already arranged, and the rest is in an envelope in the upstairs safe. She put both hands over her face. This is insane. Yes. This is something men come up with at 3 a.m. in kitchens. Yes. Victor, I can't let you take it. You can't stop me, Elena. I am telling you, out of courtesy. She lowered her hands. She looked at him. You don't take orders from me. No. But you're telling me. Out of courtesy. Because of Roman. Because of Roman. She was quiet for a long time. The whole house was quiet. The refrigerator cycled on downstairs and cycled off again. Somewhere outside, an owl called once and shut up. Victor, yeah, I'm coming. Elena, I'm coming. Not onto the pier. I hear you on the pier, but I'm coming to the city. I'm going to be in a car 3 blocks away with Myron and a phone and a gun, and if it goes wrong, I am going to do whatever Roman would do in that situation, which is whatever it takes. You don't do this alone. We do this together. Or I sit here and wait to find out on a phone whether I'm a widow for the second time, and I am not doing that again. Do you understand me? He looked at her. For one of the few times in his life, Victor Kozlov smiled a full smile. Yes, ma'am. Good. Arya. My mother. Elena. My mother, Victor. In Greenwich. She thinks I've been dead for 6 years. She's going to open her door tomorrow morning, and her daughter is going to be standing on her porch with a 5-year-old in her arms, and she is going to let us in. And she is going to ask no questions until I tell her to, because that is who my mother is. Arya has never met her. She deserves to. For tonight, for one night, she can be with her grandmother. And my mother can know she has a granddaughter. I should have done this 6 years ago, and I didn't because I was scared. I'm done being scared, Victor. I'm all the way done. Yarsem, Titi. Victor was quiet. That's good, he said. That's actually good. I know. Okay. Okay. Pack her up. We leave at 6. Myron drives you to Greenwich. I meet you in the city at 4 tomorrow afternoon. We coordinate from there. Okay. Elena. Yeah. He's alive. Hold on to that. Victor. Yeah. He better stay that way. She closed the door. Roman woke up somewhere cold. He was on a concrete floor. His hands were still bound, his face still swollen, blood dried down one side of his jaw. The hood was off. He was in a large empty room, a warehouse by the smell, brine and diesel and old fish. And there was one bare bulb hanging over him in a folding chair across from him that was, for the moment, empty. He inventoried himself. Left ankle sprained, maybe? 2 ribs cracked, probably. A cut over his eye that had stopped bleeding. Nothing broken, nothing mortal. Yet. He thought, Elena, Arya, Victor, please keep them away. Please, Victor, for the love of... keep them away. The side door opened. A man walked in. Mikhail Dragov was shorter than Roman had imagined. He was bald. He wore a plain gray cardigan. He looked like somebody's vaguely disappointing uncle. He pulled the folding chair a little closer, sat down on it, leaned forward with his elbows on his knees, and he looked at Roman for a long time. Hello, Roman. Mikhail. You know, in my head, I thought you would be bigger. In my head, I thought you'd be taller. Dragov smiled. It did not reach his eyes. You took my brother. I did. In a warehouse like this one. Did you know that? The warehouse where you left Yakov was almost identical to this one. Same kind of floor, same kind of light. I picked this one for tonight on purpose. I wanted you to feel it. I feel it. Good. Roman shifted. His shoulder complained. Mikhail. Whatever you want, I'll give it to you. You know that. I'll give you the ports. I'll give you the accounts. I'll give you the Halstead contract. I'll walk out of this city tomorrow and you'll never see my face again. You can have all of it. Just leave them alone. My wife, the kid. That's all. That's the whole deal. Dragov tilted his head. Roman, I don't want the ports. Take them. I have ports. Mikhail, I want you to sit in a chair like this one, the way my brother sat in a chair like this one, and I want you to know what my brother knew in the last 10 minutes of his life. I want you to know what it is to understand that no money in the world is going to buy your way out. That's what I want. That's the whole deal. Roman closed his eyes. I'm sorry about your brother. Are you? Not really. Dragov laughed. See? That I respect. That is honest. Mikhail. Yes. Don't bring my wife into this. Ah. Please. Dragov stood up. He walked a slow circle around the chair, hands in the pockets of his cardigan, thoughtful. Roman tracked him with one eye. The other was almost swollen shut. Here's the problem, Roman. When I found out you had a wife, a real wife, not just some girl, an actual wife, who you had been hiding for 6 years, I was so angry I could not speak for a day. Do you know why? Not because you hid her, because you did not understand that by hiding her you had made her the one thing in this world that I could take from you. If she had been at your side in your tower, she would have been a fact. I would have hated her, but I would have respected her. Instead, you made her a secret. And secrets, Roman, secrets are the softest part of a man. You made me a gift without meaning to. I cannot give a gift like that back. She's not a gift. She is tonight. Mikhail, 11 p.m. tomorrow. The old pier. She walks on alone. You watch. I let you watch. That is the concession I make to our long friendship, Roman. I let you watch, and then I let you die. Roman did not answer. He thought of Elena at the kitchen window of the lake house, saying, "Come back." He thought of Arya on the rug with a purple crayon. He thought of Mr. Pepper in the footwell of the sedan. He thought, with a strange, cold clarity, of every single day of the last 6 years, and of the exact number of Fridays Victor had put a thin folder on his desk, 312 approximately, and of how each of those Fridays had been, in its way, the best day of the week. Mikhail. Yes, she won't come. She will. You don't know her. Roman, I have been watching your wife for 6 months. I know her better than you know her. She will come. She will come because she loves you and because she is a mother and because she believes, against all available evidence, that she can save both of you. She will come because women like her always come. It is the most reliable fact in this entire business. You're going to be very disappointed. I doubt it. We'll see. We will. Dragov smiled one more time, and he left, and the bare bulb buzzed, and Roman Varek sat on a concrete floor in a warehouse at the mouth of the Blackwater River, and for the second time in a week, he prayed. Not to anyone in particular, just in the direction of the night. Elena left Arya at her mother's house at 3:17 the next afternoon. The reunion took the exact shape Elena had always imagined it taking, except quieter. Her mother opened the door in a navy sweater with paint on the sleeve. She had been retouching the trim in the dining room because that was the kind of thing her mother did on a Thursday afternoon when her heart was broken. And she saw her daughter on the porch, and she saw the small, dark-haired, gray-eyed child sitting on her daughter's hip. And her mother's face did a thing that was not a smile and not a sob, but some older, deeper motion, and she stepped back and opened the door wider without a single word. Mom? Come in. I know who this is. Come in, Elena. They came in. Elena stayed 28 minutes. She ate half a sandwich her mother made her. She drank a glass of water. She held her daughter in her lap on the good couch, and she told her quietly that Mama had to go on a trip for a night, a grown-up trip, and that Grandma was going to make grilled cheese for dinner, and they were going to watch a movie, and tomorrow Mama would come get her. Arya took this in with the solemn evaluation she gave all proposals. Is Roman coming back with you? Elena's throat closed. I hope so, baby. Tell him Mr. Pepper is waiting. I will. Tell him to bring him. I will. Mama. Yeah. Are you scared? Elena put her forehead against her daughter's forehead. A little. Don't be. Okay, baby. I love you, Mama. I love you to the edge of everything, Arya. I love you to the edge of everything and back. Good answer. She handed her daughter over to her mother. Her mother's hands were steady. Her mother said, go. And that was all. And Elena went. Moran drove her into Blackwater City. She watched the skyline get taller through the windshield, and she thought of a kitchen in a Victorian brownstone 6 years ago, and of a pen she had not held, and a man she had not stopped loving, and of a daughter she would die in the next 8 hours, if that was the trade, to keep. At 10:54 p.m., Viktor Kozlov stepped onto the old pier at the mouth of the Blackwater River. He was alone. He was unarmed, or appeared to be. He was wearing a dark overcoat and no hat. His hands were at his sides, visible. A cold salt wind was coming up off the water. The pier creaked under his shoes. 40 yards out, under a floodlight on a rusted pole, Mikhail Dragov stood with 3 men. One of the 3 men had a gun pressed to the side of Roman Varek's head. Roman was on his knees on the wood. His hands were bound behind him. One eye was swollen shut. He was still alive. Dragov watched Viktor walk the length of the pier and did not speak until Viktor was 10 yards away. Then he held up one hand. Stop. Viktor stopped. Who are you? Viktor Kozlov. Where's the wife? The wife is not coming. A long silence. Even Roman on his knees looked up slowly. Viktor, Dragov said carefully. I know you. I know you. I have known you for 20 years. Where is the wife? She's in a car 3 blocks from here with a man you cannot find, and the 2 of them are looking at the same live feed I'm looking at on this earpiece. She will not be coming onto this pier tonight, Mikhail. I am making you a better offer. A better offer. Me. My 31 years of knowing this organization. Every number, every name, every dollar, in exchange for him. Dragov laughed, once, sharp. Viktor, you understand I can simply shoot him, and then I can shoot you, and then I can go get the wife. You can shoot him. You can shoot me. You cannot get the wife. I cannot get the wife. If anything goes wrong on this pier, in the next 90 seconds, the feed cuts, the men in the car drive, and in 6 hours the wife and the child are on a plane to a country that does not extradite. You will never see either one of them. Neither will I. Neither will he. Viktor tipped his head toward Roman without looking at him. I have arranged it that way on purpose. Killing us is free. It is also pointless. The vendetta ends tonight on this pier, Mikhail, one way or the other. Dragov stared at him. And if I take the deal? If you take the deal, Roman walks off this pier with me tonight. and I walk onto a boat tomorrow morning, and you have my files and my accounts and enough of Roman's operation to have finally won your war. The widow and the child disappear, and you stop looking for them. That is the whole deal. Where does Roman go? Somewhere without a phone, somewhere without power. He is done, Mikhail. You have already beaten him. He has nothing left to fight you with. You take me, and he walks off into a small, quiet life that is not yours to touch anymore. That is the trade. You get the man who mattered, and the world gets a ghost. Dragov tilted his head. He looked at Roman. Roman, is this accurate? Roman, on his knees, lifted his head. His mouth was thick with blood. He was staring at Victor. He had tears on his face for the first time Victor had seen in 21 years. Victor, Roman said. Victor, don't do this. Shut up, boss. Victor. I said shut up, boss. Victor, please. Mikhail, Victor said without turning his head. Do we have a deal? You need to answer me in the next 10 seconds, because that is when my people behind you decide whether this ends with the deal or without it. Dragov's eyes flicked. Behind me. Behind you. 2 snipers, one on the crane, one on the warehouse roof. Both of them have been on your men for 11 minutes. 10 seconds, Mikhail. Dragov's face did not move. He was a man used to counting. He looked once, very slowly, over his shoulder, at the dark shapes of the crane and the warehouse roof, and he did not see anything, which in the end told him everything. Take the deal, Mikhail, Victor said quietly. And if I don't, then a lot of people die on this pier in the next 5 seconds, and the only one of them who matters to me walks off anyway, because the only way I am not walking him off this pier is if I am dead on these boards. I am at peace with that. Are you at peace with that? A beat, 2. Cut him loose, Dragov said. The man with the gun hesitated. Cut him loose, Dragov said again, sharper. The man crouched down. He cut the zip ties. Roman slumped forward onto his hands, gasping. Victor walked forward. He did not look at Dragov. He walked straight past him, and he bent, and he got his arm under Roman's armpit, and he got Roman up on his feet. Boss? Victor, walk. Victor, what are you doing? Walking you off this pier. You can't. I can. Walk. 1 foot, now the other. Good. They walked. Roman was leaning on him heavily. They moved back toward the shore in a slow, sideways shuffle. Dragov stood where he was, watching them go, his hand loose at his side. At 10 yards from the end of the pier, Victor stopped. He turned his head slightly. He spoke into the collar of his coat. Now! The shot came from the crane. It was one shot, just the one. It took Mikhail Dragov in the back of the neck at a downward angle, and he was dead before he hit the pier, and the 3 men with him had a quarter second of indecision that was a quarter second too long. The second shot came from the warehouse roof, the third from somewhere Victor did not even know about. Myron had apparently negotiated an additional position without telling him, and in under 4 seconds, every armed man on that pier was on his face, and there was no sound at all except the water slapping the pilings. Roman made a small, ragged sound against Victor's shoulder. Victor. We go. Victor, you were actually going to... I was going to do whatever got you off this pier, boss, including the thing I said. Walk. We're walking. You son of a bitch. I know. You son of a bitch. I know, boss. Walk. They walked. Elena was out of the car before Miran had fully braked. She ran the last 30 yards. The pier was dark. The floodlights were off now. Victor had cut them from somebody's breaker box on the way out, and there was just the gray wash of the street lamp above the parking lot, and she was running in a wool coat and sneakers and not breathing, and she saw a dark shape limping toward her with another dark shape holding him up, and she could not tell yet which was which, and then she could. She stopped about 6 feet away. Roman. He tried to smile. His mouth was not cooperating. Elena. Oh my God. I'm okay. You are not okay. Look at your face. It's less bad than it looks. Roman. Elena, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Shut up. Roman, shut up. And she crossed the 6 feet, and she put her arms around him, very carefully, like he was something that had been glued back together, and she pressed her forehead against his collarbone, and she cried. The kind of crying she had not done in 6 years, the kind she had not let herself do when Victor came to her door in the rain, when she drove the old Honda out of the city, when she gave birth in a small hospital with no one to call. All of it came out now. All of it. On the open pier, in front of Victor and Miron and 2 men on rooftops she had never met, Elena Cross wept like a woman who had been holding her breath for 6 years and had just finally been permitted to stop. Roman put his arms around her, carefully, like she was glass, like she was his. "I'm here," he said into her hair. "I'm here, I'm here, I'm here. You don't get to go away again. Okay?" "I mean it, Roman." "Okay, Elena. I mean, you don't get to sign me away. I don't care what's coming. I don't care who's coming. You don't get to make that choice for me anymore. You want out, you tell me, and we make it together. You are not allowed to be brave at me. Do you understand? You are not allowed to be brave at me, Roman." "I understand. Say it." "I will not be brave at you again." "Good." She pulled back. She looked at his face. She put one hand up, gently, against his cheek, on the side that was not swollen, and she looked at him the way she had not looked at him in 6 years. Not angry, not afraid, just looking. Just seeing him. He closed his eyes. "Hi," she said. "Hi. You look terrible." "I know. We're going to get you to a doctor." "Elena." "Yeah, Mr. Pepper." "What? Arya?" "She made me take him. He's in the car, in the sedan at the garage. I have to get him back." Elena's face did a thing between laughing and crying. "We'll get him back, Roman. I promised. We'll get him back." There was still a city to dismantle. That part took longer than the pier. It took the better part of a year, quiet months, in which Roman, from an address nobody knew, disassembled the Varik organization piece by piece. Ports were sold to competitors. Shipping contracts were allowed to lapse. Men were paid generous severances and sent somewhere else. Petrov was not killed, in the end, which surprised a number of people, including Petrov. Roman sat across from him at a diner in Queens at 2 a.m, and he looked at the father of his godson, and he said, "Daniil, you have 10 days. Take your wife, take your kids. Go anywhere that isn't this city. If I ever see your face again, if Anton ever calls my phone, if your wife ever so much as emails my lawyer, I will reconsider. Are we clear?" And Petrov had wept into his coffee and nodded and gotten up and left. And Roman had sat in that diner for another hour, and he had paid the check, and he had never asked Victor where the Petrovs went. That counted, he thought, as 1 or 2 good decisions. The tower sold in the spring. The restaurant he'd owned for 10 years sold in the summer. The apartments and the accounts and the shell companies unwound over the fall, one by one, into other men's hands, until, at last, the name Varik was no longer attached to anything in Blackwater City except a plaque on a bench in a public park that he had paid for years ago in his mother's memory, and which nobody had the heart to take down. He did not come to the Berkshires' house during those months. Elena would not let him. That was the deal. She had been very clear on the pier, and she had been even clearer 2 days later in a hospital parking lot while he was getting his ribs taped, and she was clearer still in a dozen conversations after that. He had to finish first. He had to finish the man he had been, and only then could he start on whatever man he was going to be next. She was not going to rebuild her life around a half-finished man. She loved him. She wasn't going to watch him die slowly of his own unfinished business. So he finished. Arya turned 6 that spring. She had a birthday party at her grandmother's house in Greenwich. Elena had moved with her, quietly, after the pier. Not back to Cedar Hollow, not back to the Yellow House. A new rental, a smaller town, but close enough to her mother that Arya could be dropped off after school and not have to be alone. Elena went back to school for a library science degree she had always meant to finish. She was good at it. She had in fact always been good at things. 6 years of hiding had not taken that part from her. It had only buried it. Roman came to Arya's 7th birthday. He came up the walk of Elena's little rental house in the middle of a July afternoon, in jeans and a t-shirt, with a paper bag in one hand and an expression on his face that Elena, watching from the front window, recognized and had to sit down on the couch for a minute. He rang the bell. Arya opened it. "Hi," she said. "Hi, kid." You came back. Yeah, that took a really long time. It did. Mama said it would. She's usually right. Yeah, she is. I brought you something. Is it a present? Kind of. He held out the paper bag. Arya took it, she opened it, she looked inside, her face scrunched up in that scientific way. Roman. Yeah. It's Mr. Pepper. Yeah. You said you'd bring him back. I did. He has a new ear. I had somebody sew one on. Did it hurt him? I asked. He said no. Okay. She pulled the rabbit out of the bag. She hugged him fiercely. Then she looked up at the man on her porch. The man her mother had told her in a long, careful conversation the week before was an old friend who had been away for a while and who was maybe going to be around now if that was okay with her. And she said with great seriousness, "Do you want to come in? Is that okay with your mom?" Mama said to ask you. He looked up. Elena was in the doorway behind Arya. She had her arms crossed over her chest, not in the closed-off way she used to do it, but in the way a person holds themselves together when something is finally happening that they spent a long time being afraid of. "Come in," Elena said. "Dinner's at 6. You set the table." Bikim. He did not move in. Not that year. They were not stupid people. Elena had done 6 years of being alone, and she was not going to undo it in one summer. He rented a small place in town. He came over on weekends. He learned which pans Arya's pancakes cooked best in. He learned how to braid hair, badly. He drove Arya to ballet and back, and he sat in the lobby with the other parents. And when the other parents made small talk about where they worked, he said, "I'm retired." And they said, "Oh, good for you." And that was all they said. And he thought quietly, in the lobby of a small-town dance school on a Saturday morning, that this was the rarest and most expensive thing he had ever owned. Arya learned his name the way children learn the names of kind adults, gradually, without ceremony. He was Roman. He was the friend who came over. He was the man who fixed the squeaky step. He was the grown-up who would let her beat him at checkers 4 times in a row and not say anything about it. He was not her father, by agreement, not in any way she would know for a long time. But he was present. And that, Elena came to think, in the end, was the whole point. Not the title. The presence. When Arya was 11, Elena sat her down at the kitchen table and told her everything. The yellow house, the pier, her real last name. The fact that the kind, quiet man who now, by then, had been around for 4 years, coming over on Fridays and leaving on Sundays, who had helped her with her 6th grade science fair project and who had taught her how to skip stones on the pond by her grandmother's house. The fact that he was her father. Arya sat in the kitchen for a long time, her hands around a glass of milk. "Mama? Yeah. You're not joking." "No, baby." "All this time?" "All this time." "And he knew?" "He knew. And he just didn't say." "Because I asked him not to." "You asked him not to." "Because I was scared, baby. Because I was so scared. Because I thought if I told you sooner, when you were little, I wouldn't be able to protect you from what he used to be. I thought I had to keep him out of it. I was wrong. I was wrong for a long time. I'm sorry." Arya cried for a while. Then she got up and walked out of the kitchen. She walked out the front door. She walked down the block in bare feet to the little rental place Roman still kept, and she banged on the door until he opened it, and she stood there with her face red and her chin trembling, and she said, "Are you my dad?" Roman at the door in an old t-shirt looked at his daughter for a long moment. "Yes." "Why didn't you say so?" "Because your mom asked me not to. And because the man I used to be was not a man you needed for a father. And because by the time I was worth anything, you'd already made up your mind about me, and I didn't want to ruin it." "That's stupid." "Yeah. That's really stupid, Roman." "Yeah. I'm mad at you." "Okay. I'm going to be mad at you for a long time." "That's fair. But I'm coming in, and you're going to make me a grilled cheese, and I'm going to be mad at you while I eat it." "Okay?" He stepped back. She came in. He made her a grilled cheese. She ate it at his kitchen table, sniffling, furious, and at the end of it she said, without looking up, "You should marry her again, you know." "What?" "Mama, You should marry Mama again. You already did it once. Arya, she loves you. You love her. You're both just old and weird about it. Kid, I'm just saying. He laughed. He could not help it. He laughed and wiped his eye with the heel of his hand, and his 11-year-old daughter rolled her eyes at him and took another bite of her grilled cheese, and the world, the small, strange, stitched-together world he had made out of the ruin of the other one, kept spinning. He did marry her again, not for a while, not for another 2 years. A small ceremony in Elena's mother's backyard, with 20 people, and Arya as the maid of honor in a dress she had picked out herself, and Victor as Roman's best man in a suit he had bought specifically for the occasion and never wore again. Elena had kept her wedding ring on a chain for 7 years by then, in a drawer in her bedroom, and Roman had kept his around his neck, and when they stood in that backyard they exchanged the same rings. And nobody there understood the full weight of that except the three of them and maybe Elena's mother, who knew more than she ever said. There is no tidy ending for people like them. There is only the long work of remaining. Roman did not wake up one morning redeemed. He woke up one morning in a bed next to his wife, in a house in a town he would have had trouble finding on a map 5 years earlier, and he looked at the ceiling and understood quietly that he had not hurt anyone in a long time, and that he had not, in fact, become anything heroic. He had simply stopped. Stopping, it turned out, was the hardest thing he had ever done. Harder than the tower, harder than the war, harder than the pier. He stopped, and he stayed stopped. Elena never entirely forgave him for the night he signed the papers. She had been honest with him in the car, on the drive to the Berkshires, about that. You cannot build 6 years of a person on not forgiving someone and then hand all of it back in a single afternoon. What she did instead was something harder and more honest. She let the unforgiveness stop running her life. She put it in a drawer in the back of a closet in the back of her head, and she lived her life around it. And once or twice a year she opened the drawer and looked at it, and sometimes she showed it to him, and sometimes he would sit on the edge of the bed and say, "I know, Elena, I know, I know." And then they would go downstairs and make dinner. That was, as far as Elena could tell, what love actually was. Not the absence of the wound, the willingness to live with the wound together in the same house, with the drawer closed most days and open some days, and everybody fed regardless. Arya grew up. She was not perfect either. She went through a bad year at 15 where she wouldn't speak to Roman and a worse year at 16 where she wouldn't speak to Elena. She came home from college in her junior year and told them she wanted to be a nurse. She was good at it. She was, in fact, like her mother in the way that mattered most. She was good at things, and she kept being good at them even when nobody was watching. Years later, Roman sat on the back porch of the house he and Elena had finally bought together. A small one, with too many stairs for 2 people getting old. And he watched his daughter, grown, kneeling in the grass in the yard with her own small son on her hip, showing him how to find the first strawberries of the season under the netting. The boy was 2. He had his mother's serious gray eyes, and beyond them, further back, his grandfather's, and further back still, a great-grandmother Roman had loved when he was 11 years old and did not know how to love anyone. Elena came out onto the porch with 2 mugs. "Move over." "Yes, ma'am." She sat down. She put a mug in his hand. She looked out at the yard, at their daughter, at the small boy with his whole mouth red from a strawberry. "You okay?" she said. "I'm okay." "You thinking about something?" "I'm thinking," he said, "that I was wrong about what I thought power was for most of my life." "What did you think it was?" "I thought it was what you could take from people. And now I think it was this. All along. The whole time. Sitting on a porch with you, watching her. That was the thing. And I had it in my hands at 29, and I signed it away at 38 because I thought I was being brave. I wasn't being brave. I was being scared. The bravest thing I ever did was come back and say I'd been wrong. And even that I only did because Victor made me. And even that took 6 years. Elena was quiet for a moment. "Roman?" "Yeah. You're going to cry in a minute." "I know." "Do it inside. It upsets the baby." He laughed. He wiped his eye with the back of his hand. He leaned his head against her shoulder. He who had once sat on the 32nd floor of a tower in a dark suit and signed her name away without trembling. and he watched his daughter lift her little boy up onto her hip and walk him over to the porch steps, saying something to him in a voice too soft to carry. Maybe, he thought, maybe that was the only lesson worth anything. It wasn't that love always wins. He had lived too long and seen too much to believe that. Plenty of love loses. Plenty of love gets signed away in a study at night by a man who thought he was being noble. What he had learned, and what he was still learning, every single morning of every single year he was lucky enough to wake up next to her, was this: love gets one more chance than you think it does. One. Not always, not infinitely, but one. If you are willing to walk back into the house you burned down and sit on the floor of the kitchen and say I was wrong and mean it and keep meaning it, sometimes, not always, but sometimes, the woman you signed away will open the door. You don't get to earn that. You only get to show up for it. He showed up for it every day for the rest of his life. And his daughter grew up safe, far from the shadows that had once defined him. And she taught her own son to look for strawberries in the late afternoon light. And somewhere in a drawer in a bedroom upstairs, a one-eared rabbit named Mr. Pepper sat on a folded pillowcase, a little threadbare, a little faded, waiting patiently to be inherited.